Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to round 11 of the Downunder Series Supercar V8 Supercar Championship. Here we are at Bathurst, and this event sponsored once again by Noble Host and Service Australia. So thank you very much to those guys. My name is David Buckley, and I'm joined as ever by the lovely Matthew Sanderson. Say hello, Matt.
Yeah, once again back at the DUS Championship. Always great to be with these guys in the V8 series, and of course you've already mentioned we're at the mighty Bathurst. This is going to be a big one, you know. Last final rounds, we're going into the endurance phase of the season, so 2-hour race here, no second chances or anything. It's going to be a tough one, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Slightly reduced field we've got this evening, around 16 drivers, but that doesn't mean it's not going to be an interesting race. We've got the big championship contenders. Wayne Walker is here to try and extend his championship lead, but as you were saying, we are into the endurance part of the season now. Looking at the weather, as we are just in the midst of qualifying at the moment, it's not necessarily good. It looks very, very wet and damp on track, which is going to make this very tricky circuit even that much more difficult.
Yeah, I mean, going up the hill, that's challenging enough, isn't it? You've got high concrete barriers on both sides of you as you fly up to the top of the circuit, and then, of course, it gets even scarier when you start to descend back down towards the start-finishing line. And when you mix in bad weather conditions like we seem to be having here this evening, then it's going to be extremely tricky to keep these things on track and on par for the next 2 hours, especially since one single mistake could end your entire day.
Yeah, as you're saying, that 2 hours the race this evening. That's one race, one opportunity to get things right, as we've had slightly differently in the season so far with the different rounds. So as you can see on the screen, around 11 we are at Bathurst Endurance this evening. Only 3 rounds to go in the season, and from the championship standings at the moment, looking pretty good for Wayne Walker at the top of the table. He is a long way clear of everybody else, it seems, as he's just getting the look where he needs to, whereas championship rivals Daniel Partizano and others as well, not quite able to maximise the pace and the positions in the previous rounds. But we'll see. We'll try and go to some shots of the cars in qualifying at the moment, and we'll get some time set up on the table as well, and we'll see who's on pole. So at the moment we have Optisano in pole position with 1 minute to go in qualifying, 2 minutes 17.180. Wayne Walker in second place, about 2 tenths behind, and then Stephen White in the 971 car 7 tenths of a second behind as well. So over a lap it's over 2 minutes long. That's not massive gaps from the top three there, less than a second. So some good times, and you just see how wet the circuit is there. There's going to be absolutely no grip on there.
Yes, the circuit's completely saturated, so these guys are going to be purely on the wet compounds. I don't know what the weather forecast is, if we're going to be going into a dry session as the race unfolds. Perhaps that'll be very interesting to see tactically who's going to go for the slicks then, but for now at least it's going to be a very wet start to qualifying and to the race. We've obviously of course still got the top shootout as well, so the guys that are in the top 10 right now, they'll hand over to the next session, which will be pretty much everything on the line for the pole position. So this won't be final, of course, and obviously from 10th downwards, similar to Formula 1, it'll be there'll be solid positions from there on.
Yeah, and we should see some interesting results from the top 10 shootout as we had the last time. Can't remember exactly what round it was, but the top 10 shootout we had last time was fantastic. It threw up some major results, some major shifts in the results as well as the checkered flag flies. Everyone is able to finish their current lap. As we see one of the cars there, I can't see exactly. I think that's
Liam Tollard-Williams. Yeah.
Through the second corner, bouncing off the barriers as well. He's really pushing, and he goes around and into the barriers again. So that'll be his lap done. Wayne Walker coming into the pits as well. So it's going to be very tricky to find out, see who's actually going to be on pole. The lap time so far is a good indication. But just one mistake in the top 10, and that's you right down the field. So going to have some work to do, and it's not necessarily the most easy track in the world to overtake around Bathurst.
Yeah, it's worth mentioning as well that all the guys that are running in this series, it's fixed setups for the 2022 season, so they're not able to change the spring setup. They're not able to change the camber. There's nothing available to them. It's purely fixed, other than a few changes like brake bias and tire pressures, I believe. So this comes down to a lot of practice. So I believe that the person who's going to do the most laps is going to have a slight advantage this time, especially given the conditions today as well. And we'll wait now for going to the shootout, and then what we'll do is we'll go on board with one of the guys, probably one of the championship leaders, Wayne Walker or Stephen White, and they'll take us around the circuit in what must be a dancing session with these V8s.
Yeah, there's not going to be much just forward steering on this. It's going to be pretty much the entire lap at opposite lock, I can imagine. But yeah, it's going to be fantastic to watch these guys. They're all very very skilled around the behind the wheel of these cars. So seeing them wrestle them around this circuit, especially on a track like this, we've not seen weather this bad in this season so far. We had some changing conditions earlier on in the season where we went from kind of dry to starting to get wet, but wet tires have not been a feature of this championship yet. So if that goes to the race, then that'll be very interesting to see. But we'll wait and see what happens as everyone's just finishing their laps now. I think we're just waiting on Matt Ogg just to come back to the pit, so he goes, and we will go into the top 10 shootout. So the drivers going through: Optisano, Walker, Broadbent, White, Fraser, McLennan, Gooden, Young, Kidas, and Robertson are your top 10 cars into the top 10 shootout, and we will see them come to the onto the track very shortly, and it'll be Robertson first in the 83 car to set his lap. So when it comes to a circuit like this, Matt, obviously Mount Panorama Street Circuit, it is a staple of pretty much every series. Everyone wants to do well here. It's a fantastic track. It's very difficult as well. I know doing some sim racing myself in iRacing in the Bathurst 12 hours. Not an easy track at all to get it around in one piece. So just surviving is going to really put you in a good stead for some good points in this race. But yeah, in your opinion, what do you think about this track? Is there areas that you really need to look out for, and how do you approach a race like this?
Well, you're asking me to pinpoint a danger zone or a specific point of the circuit that's dangerous at Mount Panorama, which you could pretty much identify every single corner as a danger zone, to be honest. But I think there's a few that stand out in particular, and I guess you've got the cutting, which is quite notorious for catching people out. Of course, if there's anyone that has an incident in that particular spot of the track, then you're completely blind. It's uphill and it's off camber, so the car wants to understeer into that particular part. Then you've immediately got Griffin's Mount or Ride Part. You've seen many accidents in the real world as they fly through there. It's pretty much full throttles, although I recommend a slight lift myself when coming through the right-hander in these V8s, because I have done a few laps in these when we were practicing. But yeah, there's a small lift potentially, especially in wet conditions coming through there. If you mess that up, you're going to slam the car into the left-hand barrier, and then pretty much you're a passenger as it comes across to the other side where another concrete barrier awaits you. Then of course you've got at the very top of the hill, you've got obviously Skyline and the corner just predecessing that. That's pretty much full throttle as well. And if you get that wrong, there's a small gravel trap on the exit, but it's not enough to slow the car down at all. And then of course, and then you go immediately down into the S's, which is a drop away from where the car is. The car again wants to understeer. You've got gravity against you. The car doesn't want to slow down. You're fighting it all the way to the braking point, and it gets so narrow. So if you're going too wide into that corner, then you better pray that something's going to go right. There's a small escape to the left-hand side, but even that, it doesn't offer much. So it's all risk from pretty much as soon as you go up to the hill, all the way to the point past the S's. And then I think the final danger point that I'd like to highlight is probably Forest Elbow, which is, of course, the final corner before you charge all the way down the hill. That right there, again, understeers like crazy. The car doesn't want to behave because of the nature of the corner, pulls away from the car, and then you've got to basically wrestle it and then floor the throttle as early as possible to maintain that speed down the straight. I think that covers pretty much all the circuit, but those are the main danger points that I highlight for Bathurst.
A massive challenge awaits for these drivers then, as I think we've got our first car on track for their flying lap, which I believe will be Robinson, but we'll go back to that in a second, as he's just coming through the first sector now, going uphill. So this will be the first test on the benchmark, as we Sir Forest Elbow there. I do apologise if my corner names are wrong. I'm not hugely knowledgeable with this track, but I know the most important bits. But Robinson in the 83 car going around the top of the mountain now. Now you can see how wet it still is there. So it's going to really, if it's still raining, which I think it might be, then it's going to be a very big challenge. But if it stops raining, that is going to help Oppisano, Walker, Broadbent, everyone at the top of the field as the track starts to dry out a little bit. We're coming down the mountain now. He's set obviously a purple in the first sector. It's his first car out. And then coming all the way down through the S's now. It's very tricky to get this car, especially in these conditions, to just stay on the racing line and not in the wall. If you hit that barrier, that's pretty much your race over. But down now on Comrade Straight now, very fast. It's the fastest part, getting close to, well, I think over 300 kilometers an hour coming through here, and then through the chase. Very tricky corner, especially in the wet, and then you've got to get immediately on the brakes into the braking zone and try not to just go straight on into the gravel.
Yeah, I mean, in these conditions, you've got to be so tentative with the throttle. It's all about that throttle management, making sure that the car's in line and in check at all times. That's going to be the difference between pole position here this evening. As he just comes across through the final corner, across the start-finishing line. What is the first time on the board? It's a 2:22.012 from Paul Robinson, the 83, and that starts our final top 10. I mean, I've got to feel sorry for Paul a bit. I mean, the session has stopped. The rain's still coming down, so he's going to be going out technically in untested water, if that makes sense, because nobody else is on track clearing it. He's pretty much out there on his own. But Alex Kiedis will be the next man to line up for his qualifying lap, and he's just coming into the final corner now to begin his flyer.
Yeah, so 2:22, not the best of laps there for Robson, but he's done what he can in the conditions, as there will be a lot of standing water. You can see as Kiedis comes through the final corner very sideways, which is just what we expect from these VA supercars at this point. Coming through the first sector now, through the first corner, no problems really at all. Up the straight up towards the mountain now, and we'll see what Alex Kiedis in the number 17 car, Walker Racing car, can do on his lap here. So he was 9th in the kind of initial qualifying session. We'll see where he can put himself towards the end of this session. No dramas so far, as he's just tentatively getting the car through the initial corners.
As we said, Alex Kiedis as well, been doing quite well in the latter stages of the championship. He's been with us since, I believe, Perth Super Sprint, so he's had a few points from there, but consistently he's getting more and more each time he goes out on track. So he's currently sitting in P15, so he could easily quite move up. He's got a few guys within striking distance in the championship standings, so this could be the first way to do it, the first endurance round, closing before the end of the season. And he's just set a purple sector 1, so he's on track to move up in the order and take pole position for the time being.
Yeah, doing very well. It's Alex Kiedis, and it presents a new challenge. Does the endurance racing a bit different than the sprints and the super sprints we've been having beforehand, as you do need to just manage the pace for the entirety of the race, because as we've said a couple of times now, one race this evening, and if you've got one chance, if you mess it up, there is no chance to get back the more points in the second race. That is it. So a different style of driving is needed for the endurance rounds, and we'll see who can better adapt to these conditions and also the conditions on the road. So coming through the final sector now is Alex Kiedis. He's purple in sector 1 and 2. He's about half a second through each sector quicker than Robinson, the 83. So coming through the final sector now, we'll see what he can do. Approaching the final corner now, and as he comes across the line, we'll see what the time is. very side without the final
Ooh,
corner. He nearly
yeah.
lose it. That would have been a lot of time lost there. But 20.971 as he plows into the wall. I assume out of frustration with the final corner. He could have gone a lot quicker there because could Kidas, but yeah, decent time, 20.9. That puts him at provisional pole as Mark Young now is coming through the final corner onto his flying lap.
Yeah, Mark Young, he's had a great second half of the season as well, hasn't he? Because he's currently sitting in 4th place, had a few podium positions at Sandown and Auckland as well. So he's on a real charge in terms of his current game. So be looking to see if he can potentially disrupt the top runners once again at Bathurst. I think consistency will be the key here, and we'll see how he gets on as he comes up the hill towards Sector 1. When we get slightly on into the top 10 shootout, we'll go on board with some of the guys and have a flying lap fully around the circuit, run you through the course. It's not going to be anywhere near as fast as where it is in dry conditions as he scrolls his way out of Quarry Bend and in through to the cutting we come, and he's slowing down quite nicely, hugs the inside line. Slight wiggle from the back end of the Holden as he puts down the power once again, and always it's even fighting him through the next set of corners, which is Griffin's. Top of the hill, no problems, avoids that barrier that we mentioned. That's a high risk factor as he comes through Sector 2 now, or down Solomon Park. There's a small dip and the car instantly gets shoved back up into the air as we reach the top of the hill. And then approaching Skyline, this is going to be crunch time, and where you can find any time the car sliding slightly to the right hand side as he turns the car in, but otherwise slowed down very nicely through the S's. No dramas there. And sector times wise, he is purple for Sector 1, and we'll wait for him to go onto the back straight before we get the official Sector 2 times. Back up to speed. Good, nice entry into the final corner. Or sorry, the final corner at the top of the hill. So onto the back straight he goes. It is not purple for Sector 2, so we had a few issues there, maybe potentially at the S's. A bit cautious through that particular corner perhaps, but on the way down to the chase. Cuts the corner nicely, finds himself mid-circuit, hugs over to the right-hand side once again. Heavy braking being done, and hits the apex, no problems. Nice lap here as he comes back up to speed. Is he going to be able to bring it all together in Sector 3 though? That's the question, that's what he needs to do. And into the final corner. Gently, gently does it on the throttle. The car is protesting ever so slightly, but it's pole position there for Mark Young for the time being. It's a 2:20.3, so it's at least 0.6 seconds faster than Alex Kidas, and we'll have to wait and see, of course, if that's any good. And Brett Gooden's the next person in line.
Yeah, I think Kidas really going to be kicking himself in that one. I think he had a lot more time to give on that lap, but just threw it all the way at the final corner, as it's so easy to do, as we saw Young nearly do that as well. But like I said, Brett Gooden coming up the hill now through the first corner seems to be fairly straightforward and tidy for the time being, as tidy as you can be in conditions such as these. But on the straight now, coming up towards the first part of the mountain, first major braking zone, first difficult really corner really. A little bit of understeer going into the apex and oversteer. There's everything going on for Brett Gooden as he comes to the apex, but he's able to hold it together. You see how much standing water is on the circuit. It's going to be so difficult for these guys to get these cars stopped, and he's not, is he? How is Brett Gooden doing that? I'm not sure if it's the camera angle doing this, but it looks like he's about to fly into the barriers every moment. He nearly does there, coming through Griffins, and yeah, what a fantastic.
He's dancing, definitely.
Lap. Yeah, it's a bit of a difference that we saw from Mark Young, because he's sideways coming over the crest.
Funny enough, it is purple, Dave. Despite the dancing, the constant corrections going on inside the cockpit, he's at least 0.4 seconds up on Mark Young, who's the person that's fastest in Sector 1 so far.
Yeah, you can see the differences in driving styles when it comes to conditions like this. It just maybe it helps just to keep the heat in the tyres, get all the grip you can, and getting heat in the tyres means sending it, which is exactly what Brett Gooden is doing right now in the 88, coming through Forest Elbow now onto the back straight, and we'll see what his sector 2 time is. Purple again.
The rear wheels were spinning all the way down the hill, Dave. Did you see that? He was constantly counter-steering to the left as he came out onto the back straight. That is incredible stuff. How he held that while accelerating, that is really good skill there from Brett Gooden.
Yeah, we'll see how that affects his times in the final sector through Chase. No issues there. He's able to keep the car in relatively one direction this time, but you can see from this onboard shot, you can just see every moment the car is squirrely and sideways, and he's really hustling it, breaking into the final corner now. He's purple in sector 1 and 2. We'll see what he can do. He's a little bit wide of the apex, and very sideways again, still sideways as he crossed the line. I don't think there was a moment there where Brett Gooden wasn't having wheel spin. So 19.4 for number 88, so fantastic for him. He's provisional. Oh, look at Chris McLennan. And I'm not sure if the conditions are getting worse here, but McLennan, that's not the best way to start your lap, going full opposite lock into the final corner. But through turn 1 he goes now, and Matt, I will let you call this lap.
Yeah, so Chris McLennan, as he makes his way up the hill, of course, where is he in the standings? He's done fairly well so far. He's P7 in the standings, 1,388 points. So he's still got a lot of work to do before the season's over as he comes into the first few corners. Quarry Bend the first up as he takes the left-hand side of the track, exactly where you're meant to be. He's about mid-circuit for the first corner. Of course, when it is wet conditions, you need to change your driving line ever so slightly to find the grip. It's all a bit of a guessing game. You've got to make sure you don't take the mick and obviously avoid the rubber that's laid down, which he does for the cutting as well. Goes around the outside line. Seems to be under power a bit quicker, although now he finds himself in a slightly awkward position where he's inside for the next set of corners, and that's not exactly where you want to be. Through Ride Park he goes, and down through the dip. Top of the hill, avoid the curb, although he touched it ever so slightly. Although he seems to be quite tidy as it is. Let's have a look at the sector times as they come in. It's a 59, so not the fastest, but not the slowest. As he comes down into the S's. Nice cutting there through the S's, just avoids the barrier on the left hand side, which is exactly what you want to do. Manages to get on the throttle nice and early, and then slowing it right down once again for the Forest Elbow. Of course, this is where the famous tree fell onto the racetrack back in all those years ago. I don't know why it might be why it's called that name, I'm not too sure. But now onto the Conrod Straight, planting down every piece of horsepower that he has available to him. And it is a purple sector 2, 38.6, so he's clawing it back now in this second half of the lap. Is it going to be enough to demote Brett Gooden from pole position, though, into the chase? Nicely done, although he's bogging down at the apex ever so slightly, struggling to get the Mustang back under wraps, and he gets the power down. Underneath the liquid molly banner before coming to the final corner braking zone. This is all got to be well managed now. Avoid the curbing as the car gets a bit unsettled, but nicely held there as he drifts across the start finishing line. Is it going to be enough for pole position though? And it's not, unfortunately. It's a 2:20.4, which places him just behind Mark Young, who he's fighting in the standings. So that is, it's a modest lap. It's on par with everyone else, but a few errors there in Chris McLennan's lap. Yeah,
not quite able to. I think he lost a lot of time in the final sector there with just trying to get the car under control. It's Jacob Frazier there in the number 6. I think everyone is just trying to get as much tyre temperature as they can, but he's still wheel spinning coming through the start-finish straight. So this is going to be, I think it's going to be quite the lap here for Jacob Frazier. We'll see how this goes. But through the first corner there, he's still wheel spinning as he comes through about a quarter of the way down the straight. He's managed to get it under control now. I'm not sure if I've seen Jacob Frazier in the standings before, so this might be one of his first rounds with us.
He joined us in Auckland. That was his first round in the series, I believe. So he is a newcomer, but he's already making some points on the board.
Well, he's certainly showing his skill here at the moment as he's come through turns 2 and 3. He's just about going to avoid the barrier there. Coming through the cutting, he's leaving absolutely nothing on the table here, getting all over the curves, which is going to be very slippy and unsettled the car, but I don't think this car was settled to start with. But going through up the mountain now, and he's still, the car's just just dancing everywhere. I don't think there's any in any situation here. This car has been in a straight line, but number 6 car coming through on the top of the mountain now, up to Skyline, very sideways, just about holding on to it into the braking zone. Is he going to be able to get this under control? He's all over the curves, nice and straight lining as much as he can. He's just about made that through. Bit of understeer coming through the second phase of the corner, but he's not purple in the first sector.
It's still a very good first sector, though. Only 0.1 seconds down off Brett Gooden, who set the fastest Sector 1 so far. So he's on par for a really good lap here.
We'll see what the Sector 2 time is here. He's not purple again, but still fairly quick. Coming through Comrade now. This is the only moment I've seen this car in a straight line once again. So I think the first sector lost quite a bit of time in the coming through the first cut, the final corner, which kind of dulled some of his momentum. But through the chase now, just about keeping that thing stopped. It was very squirrely coming under braking, where it was Fraser there, but managed to keep it all together coming into the final corner now. Once again, the car is just dancing everywhere as he gets on the brakes. He's able to keep it sort of in a straight line and going in one direction. Comes across line. Is it going to be pole? Not quite. It's second position for the time being, 2:19.779. Just purple in the final sector, though. So a lot of time gained there for Jacob Fraser in the number 6 Chequered racing car.
Seems to be the top of the hill that's catching most people out because, of course, that's where the time was lost in that particular lap. Brett Gooden's the only one to break into the... Oh, no, tell a lie, sorry. There's 2 people that have broken into the 38s at the top of the hill. But, you know, that's where it's crunch time and that's where the lines are so fine. But Stephen White is up next. So this is, of course, a man that's in the standings high up, third place at present with 2,014 points. Craig Broadbent is just ahead in the standings. By just over 150 or so. So this could be a really important race for White Dog Racing, and he'll be looking to make sure that he stays firmly up high in that top 10 position. So now coming on to his flying lap. And the track's still completely saturated. It looks like the rain's getting slightly lighter judging by the sky alone, but it is still slightly drizzling at this moment in time as he comes through turn 1. No issues at all there for Stephen White. And charges that Holden straight up the hill in full attack mode. How late is he going to push the braking? About 150 metres into Quarry Bend. Hugs that inside line. And powering down, a slight wiggle from the rear, but no dramas. Nicely held, and into the cutting once again. A very tricky part of the circuit. Is he going to be able to slow it down in time? The back end stepping out ever so slightly, almost drifting into the apex before getting on the power once again through Ride Park. I think this thing is right on the edge as we find ourselves at the top of the mountain here. Over the crest and then powering down towards Sector 2. Let's have a look at the time as it comes in for Sector 1. It's a 58.3, so it's on par with Brett Gooden for the time being. That's a really good Sector 1. Can it all come together for Sector 2, though? So he's got all the work to do still. Still needs to find an extra 10th or so. Wiggling through the S's on the exit there. The Holden right on the edge. Those wet tyres are being pushed, that's for sure. Through Forest Elbow, powering down onto the back straight, down to Comrade. Using all the track available. Looks like it's even wiggling even now. He must be travelling at stupid speeds when the car is still unsettled. Over the crest of the hill. In towards the chase we come. It's going to be an aggressive cut, no doubt. Uses all the track available on the left-hand side before cutting through the apex. Heavy on the brakes once again here for Stephen White. Manages to touch the apex very nicely. Through the corner. What's Sector 2 saying for us? It's purple Sector 2. All needs to come together for the final corner now. This Murray's corner is very tricky indeed. It can all go wrong very easily, but he's attacking the apex quite nicely. Sideways there for Stephen White as he comes across the start. Finishing line. Is it going to be pole position? It is a 2:18.6 there, Dave. That is really impressive stuff there from White Dog Racing.
Yeah, that was a fantastic lap. As spectacular it was still quick, but yeah, Stephen White always up there in the standings, so he's one to look out for in this race, absolutely. But Craig Broadbent as well, another driver that's had a better second half of the season than the first half. He really didn't start off the season very well, sideways on the exit of the first corner. That's not going to help him. I think the track is getting a lot wetter. It seems that the range is not stopping coming down, and with no cars on the track really to clear any of the water, it's just starting to pool. But Craig Broadbent doing a decent job so far, keeping the car in a straight line, comes through. Turn 2, now he's able to keep that going, sideways, still wheel spinning all the way up the hill here, and then breaking into, he's hit the barrier, he's in the barriers. He's just a touch, I think he's just able to get away with it, but that won't help Craig Broadbent's chances here.
Well, who knows, in these conditions it might help turning the car, you don't know, do you? But he's carrying on his lap now. Yeah,
he's carrying on, it looks like he's able to continue. He's not purple, but he's not too far off, I don't think. But this has been quite the spectacular lap so far. Not the tidiest from Craig Broadbent here. It's very wide as well, over the curves, which can be very, very slippery. Down through Skyline and through the S's now. It looks like he went just a little bit wide there of the apex. Had to just snag on the brakes a little bit just to keep the car stopped. Very, very wiggly coming through on the power. And then through Forest Elbow now.
It's a good exit. It's a good exit there.
The barriers again. I think he just about clipped the barrier at the back end coming through Forest Elbow, and it really unsettled the car. But he's carrying on. I don't think the times are going to be too great for Craig Broadbent here. This could be some work for him in the race if this carries on.
I think he's on par for P2 at the moment, Dave, because he was only a few thousandths in Sector 1. An extra 10th off Stephen White in Sector 2, so it's not really that much in it. It depends on how bad that Sector 3 was, which we'll have to wait and see, of course, as he comes across the start-finishing line. Coming through down to the final braking zone now, and I think he will be somewhere within the top 3, that's for sure, if he can bring it together in the final corner, that's for sure. Powering down, wiggling all the way, the Mustang fighting its way across, and he's actually on pole position, Dave. He brought it all together in that final few corners. That is mega stuff. So purple Sector 3, and that's all it took. A 2:18.555. That is how you do it.
Less than a tenth from Stephen White. Craig Broadbent, what a lap that was. I don't think the team would be too happy with the bits they have to pick off there from the barriers or whatever, but we'll see how that goes. But here we go. The championship leader, Wayne Walker, coming through to start his lap now.
This is going to be a day of concentration here. The lap of life from Wayne Walker, of course. He's in the championship lead. He doesn't need to worry too much about it. But, of course, if he DNFs here and in the subsequent rounds, he could be in a lot of trouble. There's a lot of points available for these endurance rounds as he comes up into Sector 1 now. And Quarry Ben being the first one to master. Slows down very nicely indeed, hugs the inside line, no dramas whatsoever. Slight wiggle like we've seen from everyone else as he gets the power down. And just look at the rain, it's still hammering down even now. The wipers going ferociously as they try to clear the water to see what's ahead. And that's a point to make as well as he makes his way through the cutting quite nicely as well, is that when we go into the race conditions, the spray from the car ahead is going to be an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be so difficult to see where you're going, but this lap so far from Wayne Walker, how tidy it's been. He's gone purple in Sector 1. So, Wayne Walker, he's showing his skill here in all the weather conditions. Everything just looks so just smooth. There's obviously a bit of oversteer and understeer everywhere, but he's able just to nurse it through. Look how smooth he is in these conditions. It looks fantastic. Yes,
2/10 up in Sector 1 alone, so that has paid off. That smooth transition from throttle to brakes, etc. That's what you need to have in these conditions. It's all fine margins as he comes down through Forest Elbow on the power nice and early. Slight, tiny wiggle, but much more under control from what we've seen. It looks like this is going to, already another 0.4 seconds there, Dave. On Sector 2, this is a mega lap here from Wayne Walker. This is how he easily makes his mark on the championship. Somehow he finds time. I don't know how he does it. He's just an alien, I think. He's not from this planet. But coming down into the chase now, slowing very nicely indeed. Looks like he was going to understeer slightly, but no, perfectly done. Manages to get a slight drift on as he goes through the penultimate corner and down towards the final challenge, which will be Murray's. And, yep, No dramas once again. Looks like we may see a bit of a drift here. No, it's all under control. There's the tiniest of wiggles as he comes across the start-finishing line. And that's a 2:17.7. That's 0.8 seconds faster than Broadbent. And we thought that was a mega lap.
It's showing his skills here is Wayne Walker. That is an absolutely stunning lap. But we'll see. The last challenger we have now, Daniel Optisano, the closest rival to Wayne Walker we have, coming across the start-finish line now. He's got it all to do to match that lap, which is absolutely a textbook from Wayne Walker there on how to drive this car in these conditions. Very sideways out the first corner was Optisano, but from what we've seen, it doesn't seem to cost you too much time in conditions like this. But we'll see how he gets on coming through straight out into turn 2. We'll see how he gets on.
Bouncing off the rev limiter as well as he comes into the first sector. So that's he's really starting to push the engine as well. I'll be quite cautious of that because it might unsettle the car, but he seems to have managed quite nicely there as we come through to the cutting.
Very
it was a
close
slight
to the
touch
barrier.
of the barrier.
He hit the barrier there. I think he did. Went very wide as well, coming up the hill. Not been the highest lap so far, but we'll see what the sector times show.
I mean, it's dancing.
He is very much dancing through these corners. He's not purple through the first sector. 58.645. He's hitting the barriers hard there. That's going to cause some damage, surely. And that's going to possibly hurt him. He's on the grass as well. He's really pushing this car as Optisano, but it's just costing him time.
Yes, it's not really come together for him in that first sector. He's already 0.4 seconds down, so he's got to make sure that he does his homework in the second sector, make sure he hits all of his marks. He's come through the S's a bit sideways, so we'll have to wait for the time to come through. And into Forest Elbow once again.
Big four-wheel drift coming through Forest Elbow on the exit, but yeah, once again, 38.497 for sector 2. So he's not quite on Walker's pace at the moment. Come through the chase in a second. We'll see what he can do there. But yeah, he's been pushing, but it's been untidy from Optisano here. Into the chase now. He's managed to hit the apex nicely. A little bit of oversteer on the exit, but he's managed to hold on to it. And again, big four-wheel drift there coming through the exit into the final corner of Murray's now. Is he going to be able to hold this together through the final corner? Just about hits the apex. The fans waving in the background as the inflatable man. 218.7. That's nowhere near good enough. That's in 4th position for Optisano.
I think he'll slightly be happy with that. He's still on par in pace with Stephen White, Craig Broadbent, and all that. You know, he's not outside of where he'd usually find himself. But yeah, it wasn't a great lap there for Optisano, unfortunately. But sometimes that is the way it is, isn't it? It can be quite troublesome.
Yeah, it's very difficult on this kind of qualifying format to get everything right first time. You got one opportunity, and the fact that Wayne Walker was able to do that on just that one lap, it just shows how why he is the the champion defending. But yeah, that is your standings for the race. Wayne Walker in 1st position, followed by Craig Broadbent and Stephen White as your top 3. Yeah, that was fantastic once again, just to see the skills these guys have. And you can see it in the background there, the little orange and blue fan, really really enjoying the spectacle as he's flying around there. But yeah, Matt, what do you think? That was a fantastic qualifying session once again.
Yeah, I mean, once again, it's always a great show, especially the guys in the top 10. You know, I mean, to be honest, even when we joined qualifying without the top 10 shootout, it was spectacular to watch. You know, these V8 supercars, they're always on edge, always on the limit. And especially when you mix in these wet weather conditions, it's always going to be a great display. So we're going to go into a wet race. I think it might be the second race that we've had this season that's wet, but it wasn't this bad last time. It was like a small drizzle. This is a proper downpour, and that's going to be a massive challenge for these guys, especially considering it's going to be 2 hours worth of racing here this afternoon.
Yeah, everybody is going to be absolutely exhausted by the end of this one, I think. It's difficult enough driving this track for 2 hours, but especially if it's going to be raining for that entire time, especially with some of the driving styles we've seen so far, with everybody pretty much sideways every section of the track, even through down the straights. So, yeah, it's going to be a spectacular thing to watch, especially, you know, throughout the season, these guys have been absolutely incredible to watch, and the skills on show have been absolutely amazing. The fact that these guys are able to just get the car around in one piece at full chat and wet qualifying without having a monumental accident, which is something I'm quite used to having, and it's been extremely good to watch, and it's going to set up a fantastic race, I think.
Yeah, so of course we are at the Bathurst Endurance race. Let's quickly run through the starting order with you all as we just wait for the warm-up session to conclude and we go officially in to the race. So Wayne Walker taking pole position once again with a mega lap in these wet conditions. Craig Broadbent in second place, followed closely by Stephen White and then Opatisano rounding up the top four. P5 goes to Brett Gooden. He had a dancing lap, but it all came together for him. Jacob Frazier in P6, and then Mark Young for Peanut Racing in 7th, and Chris McLennan for Noble Host in P8. Alex Kiedis, good enough for P9, followed by Paul Robinson, who rounds out the top 10. And then it's Liam Tollard-Williams, followed by Billy Ebenhauser for the Java Sim Esports team. Just outside, we have John Slow in 13th, Craig Stoddard in 14th, and then Alex Daly in 15th. Had a great race at Auckland. And then John Wade in P16. Matt Ogg finds himself in 17th, followed by Bradley Martin, and then Gigi Izan, who just joined in the last few moments in qualifying. He hasn't set any lap times, but he rounds out the back of the grid there for the Java Sim Esports team.
Yeah, so there's your grid, and it's going to be a fantastic race, especially in these weather conditions. Getting off the start line in a rain-soaked track such as this one, it's going to be quite difficult. Especially, I don't think it's not really the most stable of start first race either. It's quite lumpy and cambered, so getting a good start is going to be absolutely vital here. You see the calendar there. We've got 3 rounds to go, so every point is going to matter in the championship coming to the end of this with Gold Coast and Adelaide, the 2 remaining rounds after this. Yeah, I can't. I don't really know how to call this. I'm not sure who's going to take this. Obviously, the favourite is going to be Wayne Walker, especially if the conditions are going to be the same as we have had throughout the qualifying session. But anything can happen. We've seen Wayne Walker make a rare mistake. We've seen everybody make mistakes in this championship so far. So it's going to be a very interesting race, and one that I think everybody's going to want to win.
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning 300 points available for these endurance rounds as well. Typically it's only 100 to 150 depending on if it's a sprint or a super sprint, but 300 points available for here at Bathurst, so it's all about getting to the checkered flag. And let's just quickly touch on some of the guys that are going to be racing for points and championship position. You've got Craig Broadbent and Stephen White. They're very close together. 2183 points, or 2183 points for Craig Broadbent, 2014 for Stephen White. Very close margin considering the points available here this afternoon. Then you've got Mark Young, he's on 1874 points. Daniel Opatisano on 1677. So again, very close margins between those two. And then you've got Brett Gooden, Chris McLennan, Paul Robinson and Craig Stoddard, all basically on 1,300 points. Or sorry, Brett Gooden's on 1,500 points, but all those behind are on 1,300 points. Billy Ebenhauser on 1,280, so just 20 points shy of the next contender ahead. All extremely close. Matt Ogg, another person who's on 1,200 points. It's very, very close in the closing stages of this championship, and with so many points available, it's going to be very, very tight indeed.
Yeah, absolutely. You're going to get have to maximise every single position you can to better your championship standings coming into the final 2 rounds. Yeah, I think we're just a few moments away from the start of the race as everyone starts to grid up, and we'll hear the very famous
R-Factor 2 announcer, yes, as always, yes. Likes to deafen everyone as he tells everyone to do what they do.
Not an R-Factor event unless you've got that guy. But yeah, I am very excited for this one. It's going to be a fantastic race, and I hope you can join us for the entire thing. Once again, this the event this evening is brought to you by Serve Australia and Noble Host. So thank you very much for you guys for sponsoring the event and bringing this to us. So, weather conditions, they look a bit crap. Let's be honest.
It's not a CFS stream if there's not a swear word in it. Thanks, Dave. Keeping up the rep.
You're very well. It's going out to Australia. I'm pretty sure they hear worse things in primary school. So, yeah, it's going to be it is going to be very interesting with these weather conditions. We've seen how difficult these cars are to drive through the qualifying session. The spray as well, especially if you're near the back of the grid, the spray is going to be blinding. You are not going to be able to see anything other than the car directly ahead of you.
Yeah, that's what I say. It's going to be absolutely disaster, especially coming into the first lap when all the field is completely condensed and just in one massive train of cars. It's going to be a really big problem. It looks like we've maybe gone into another warm-up session. Perhaps someone dropped from the session, I believe. So we may be going into another 5 minutes before we go racing. So apologise for the delay, ladies and gents. We'll quickly cut back to some lovely cinematic scenes for you as we wait to see what's happening with the event. But we will soon be racing, and sooner or later we will get 20 or so V8 supercars screaming their way up the mountain in really poor conditions. So that's going to be a sight to see, that's for sure.
So this series it follows the calendar for the actual V8 Supercar Championship, which I think is fantastic. We've got a full season of ways for free modded content. So the love for the V8 Supercar series in R Factor is fantastic, because we've got the entire calendar of but it's going to be for anyone outside of Australia very obscure tracks. And the fact that they have all been modded into R Factor 2, they are all presented in such a good fashion as well. Everything looks stunning in this series. It's just it just goes to show how much people love these cars, and I hope that they do continue in real life and in the sim as well for a very long time. It's a bit difficult to watch them in the UK, but it's always stunning to see.
You got the highlight videos, haven't you? It's always on YouTube, the top 10 shootout and the highlights of each race, and it's always good to watch. These things are really on edge all the time. It's almost like they don't belong with one another. The V8 should have never been put in that kind of chassis. It's always a handful for anyone to get in and drive, and especially skillfully at the top of the order, like you see from Wayne Walker, Stephen White, and the rest of them. So hats off to these guys, and the fact that they're going to go into this race in these conditions as well. That's something else. That's a whole different league, isn't it? It requires a lot of focus, a lot of concentration, and a lot of skill.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that these cars are classed as touring cars, technically, in regulation, they've got V8 engines, no driving aids at all, a sequential gearbox that requires heel toe downshifting. It's such a skill to drive these cars, and I know a lot of these guys simulate that. They have the sequential shifters, they have 3 pedal setups with the clutch, and they will downshift. It's just incredible to see that so many people finish each race. It's such a difficult car to drive, and coming from experience from the sim wise anyway, no one's gonna trust me driving one of these things for real, but it's just a feat to get used to these cars and be fast in them.
I mean, I wouldn't mind them saying that I could drive it, but as long as they didn't mind the repair bill afterwards, that's for sure. But we're just shy of 2 minutes now from the end of the warm-up session, and then we will soon get racing and up to speed for you. If you do want to look into these guys, by the way, if anyone's watching, you can go into the description of this live stream. You can find the Downunder series website. You can find the sponsor, which is Noble Host, and the host of Servers Australia, all top-notch companies and guys. And these people that run the series and organise everything for you, they're really nice to talk to, very approachable. So if you are interested in some V8 fun, there's still a few rounds left, or if you're interested in the next season, for example, then get in touch with them. They're very open, very talkative, and they'll set you up no problem, I'm sure. So we are now coming to the end, I believe, of the warm-up session. Just got 40 seconds left. And any predictions going forward into the race, perhaps, Dave? Or
I'm going to say that the favourite at the moment is Wayne Walker. Coming from what we've seen in qualifying, he's looking very strong to take yet another win this season. But it's too difficult to call. Anything can happen. Mistakes can creep in. There can be accidents. There can be failures. It's going to be pretty much impossible to to guess, but we'll just quickly run through the order once again. Wayne Walker in pole on the Wayne Walker racing car, Craig Broadbent second, Stephen White third, and Oppisario fourth. Brett Gunn the 88 with a fantastic, spectacular qualifying lap in fifth, line up alongside Jacob Frazier, Mark Young and Chris McLennan on the row behind them. And then we have Alex Kidas and Paul Robinson following there. Both have relatively good qualifying sessions. Kidas not quite getting as much as he could. Tyler Williams following on the side down, and another person I missed,
Billy
unfortunately.
Ebenheiser,
Ebenheiser, thank you. John Slow and Craig Stannard alongside each other there, and then followed by Alex Daly and John Wade. And then rounding off the grid, we have Matt Ogg, Bradley Martin, and Gigi Isan on the back grid for the Jarviston Esports car after not setting any laps in qualifying. But he'll be looking to gain a few spots during this race, I imagine. So, just coming to the start of the race now. I believe we'll get everyone on the grid very shortly, and it's going to be a mess. I think just trying to see exactly what's going on through the spray, but I trust everybody is going to have quite the spectacular start to the race, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So stick around.
I'm hoping that it'll be a nice tidy start because, of course, it is a long race here for this particular round. We know that they know that the conditions are absolutely treacherous. So fingers crossed we're going to have a nice tidy start and everyone's going to behave themselves, take it easy, just settle into the race before then deciding to attack, find their groove, so to speak, before applying some pressure. But we are on the countdown now, and do you want to take away, Dave?
Yep, as we get underway, revs rise and we're off and racing. Decent start for Stephen White there. We get a bit bogged down behind Wayne Walker as everyone's squirreling to try and get the car off start. Looks like someone didn't start in the background there. I'm not sure who that was, but Broadbent having a monster start off the front row. He is in the lead so far. Everyone's squirreling, trying to find the grip in these conditions. Wayne Walker looking to the outside already to try and get that lead back. It's side by side coming into the second corner. Who's going to come out ahead? Walker's got the optimal line through here, so he's going to try and sweep it around the outside. Craig Broadbent, and still side by side, Broadbent not giving up easy.
Broadbent's through.
And here comes Dano as well. He's coming up. He's going to get alongside Steve Walker, and not quite able to get that going. Looks like we've got a yellow flag as well in Sector 1.
Yeah, that was a great start there from Broadbent. Just managed to get the power down. Not too sure if that's because he was on the inside line where the grip would normally be, of course, for a dirty start. But he's up into the lead now. Opposano applying pressure on Walker. He's not able to get up to speed as quickly, and he finds himself in a bit of trouble. But any idea who span out in the Sector 1 there? It looks like John Wade. He's the first retirement of this evening, unfortunately, so running into some early troubles and having to retire from the race. But now down to the S's for the first time in this 2-hour race.
Broadbent is pulling out quite the lead here. He's got just over a second to Wayne Walker coming through Sector 2. So he's got a good start. He's able to manage those cold tyres. So maybe Wayne Walker just trying to build up some temperature before he starts really attacking. But he didn't quite get the start he wanted. I think Steve White got a bit bogged down behind him as well, so that compromised his start as well. With Oppisano able to follow Craig Broadbent in his good start. But coming down the chase now, Broadbent has got a comfortable lead for the time being.
Here comes Oppisano.
He's on the inside in the chase. This could be very brave on lap 1 of the 2-hour race. He's side by side, not able to keep that alongside, as the optimal line around there will be the outside in that situation. So Wayne Walker is able to hold on for the time being, but it's definitely not over.
No, he's tucked himself back behind. You've got to be cautious as well because Stephen White is right behind as well. Not too sure what happened to Brett Gooden. He's lost out to Jacob Frazier in the early stages of this race. So you've got to be careful about who you're overtaking in these early stages, of course. But now it'll be, I think, the best tactic will be get those tyres up to temperature, find your groove, and then think about what you're going to do next.
Looks like Kidas has gone off. He's dropping down the order. There was a yellow flag briefly in Sector 3 as well, so looks like he's back underway. But this battle for second place still not over. Oppisano looking every which way, trying to get a nose in. He's not able to get close enough for the time being. Getting very close, tucking under the rear wing of Wayne Walker there, coming through turn 2. He's side by side, nearly just alongside. Coming into the cutting, not able to keep that there. There's no way you're going around the outside around there.
Oh, he's up the inside. Opposano's up the inside there, side by side through the cutting. Wayne Walker went very wide on the exit there, but Opposano right down the inside. They're now too wide coming through the next set of corners. Very risky stuff sideways there for Opposano. Just manages to hold that thing together somehow, stops it from turning into a side barrier impact. But wow, what an overtake there from Opposano. Just a slight error from Walker and took full advantage of the whole situation.
Yeah, Opposano making me look like a fool there. Thank you, Daniel, for just immediately proving me wrong. But yeah, fantastic overtake. That was very brave and able to just keep it on the tarmac as well as he went through. But yeah, when Walker's struggling in these opening stages, don't know if he's maybe just taking it easy, building the temperature up and just keeping life in the tyres. But he is going to be under pressure as well from Stephen White coming into onto Conrad now.
Well, this is a point to make, isn't it? Because throughout the entire season, we've been used to seeing these guys run on the soft compound tyres. Now we're in an endurance race. The game's changed. You've got your wets, you've got your softs, and you've got the medium/hard compound. There's three options to them. And of course, we know they're not going to be going for slicks, but we don't have any data from previous rounds to see how long these tyres last. And you know, with 1 hour and 55 minutes of this race, we don't even know when we're going to be seeing people coming into the pit lane, bar for fuel, which we know runs out in about 25 to 30 minutes. But even that's a question mark now, because they're not going to be going at the same speed that they used to. The speeds are different. The inputs have changed. So everything's up in the air, and we're kind of going in blind and seeing who's going to bite first when it comes into the pit stops. Yeah,
it's completely dark. We don't know exactly nothing about what's going to happen in this race. But yeah, that was just an overtake there from Tyler Williams getting around Alex Daly as it was going a bit wide coming to the final corner. Yellow flag in sector 1 once again. I think both Matt Ogg and Gigi Isan have been in the pit, so they might have had a coming together or some damage.
Oh, Gigi Isan's retiring.
Yeah, retiring the car, which is unfortunate the start of quite a long race like this. But yeah, the attrition is going to come in very quickly in a race like this. Going up here, Jacob Frazier is now battling with Brett Gunn, or defending from Brett Gunn, and this is the final top 5 position. So not quite close enough for the time being is Brett Gunn there. He did drop back off the start from Jacob Frazier, so we'll keep an eye on that battle, see how that develops. Alex Kiedis is in the pit lane as well, so I think he's had some issues. So yeah, the track is taking no prisoners so far, it seems.
No, I think it's got a lot to do with the visibility as well. When you're in a tight pack like we've got now, with all the cars, you know, just at the start of the race, you can't see anything ahead of you. I mean, just on board now, with one of the guys, Brett Gooden, in fact. You know, most of the driving line is completely hidden. I mean, that car is already 0.5 seconds ahead. Imagine if you was closing the gap and you was right up the rear bumper of that car ahead, you wouldn't be able to see anything. Jacob Frazier getting a bit of understeer into the final corner, or sorry, through Forest Elbow, my mistake, before coming down onto Conrad. And it looks like he's going to be a bit of trouble here as the gap is closing by Brett Gooden. He's on the attack. And is he going to be able to make a move before we get to the chase? That is the question. He moves over to the left-hand side, into position. He's going to be on the inside line for the chase. Onto the grass he goes. It's very unsettled. Is he going to lose it onto the grass? No, he doesn't. Somehow back on the grey stuff as he slows it down for the chase. And that's a good overtake there from Brett Gooden. It nearly went horribly wrong, but manages to save it.
Yeah, I thought that car was going to spear into the barriers then with a fantastic save from Brett Gooden all over the grass and just brought it back somehow. But just looking there, look how close Stephen White is getting to the back of Wayne Walker. He is closing that gap, and the two leaders starting to check out just that little bit.
Yeah, they're starting to apply pressure. Looks like Craig Broadbent is slowly coming back towards these guys. Daniel Opposano currently setting the fastest lap to 2:19.2, which is just a slither faster than Craig Broadbent, but he still has that all-important slipstream from our current leader. Wayne Walker sitting tidy in third. Stephen White another 0.6 seconds behind. So the top 4 really putting on a show and staying with one another very nicely.
So you see Wayne Walker there just popping out of the slipstream towards the end of the straight there. I think that was just to try and spot a braking zone as he's
potentially, yeah.
Spray. So just the visibility once again causing issues for these drivers, but looks like the top 4 just starting to spread out a little bit now. They're just starting to settle into the rhythm and just trying to find a groove in conditions like this.
Yeah, you just want to be... It's a bit like endurance racing, isn't it? Where you just want to make it to the end of the race, or at least the second half of the race, and then you can start to say, okay, what's achievable at this point? Of course, we know that Wayne Walker, his biggest concern right now in the championship is a DNF. That's what he wants to avoid at all costs, because, again, 300 points available today. Championship contenders, that sure, they're about roughly 600 points behind, but, you know, 2 DNFs in a row, and that is gone. You know, it completely evaporates that championship lead. So I don't think he'll be too concerned about winning here at Bathurst, but he will be concerned about bringing points home and making sure that gap is sustained.
Yeah, but don't put it past Wayne Walker to just win the race anyway, just because he can. he's done that before. But yeah, as I said, he'll just want to be... if he can't win the race this evening, just damage limitation and make sure he can get as many points as he can. Because yeah, 2 DNFs or even 1 could be disastrous for his championship standings. But coming on to the end of the lap here, with just about 10 minutes gone in this race already, and Broadbent is doing a good job so far of holding off Optisano, but Optisano is closing that gap ever so slightly, coming on to the next lap.
Yeah, he's closing that gap. Wayne Walker's slowly losing ground as well. He's just outside of the slipstream now for Optisano as he gives chase up the mountain. Here comes Optisano now. He's looking to the left but decides to tuck in once again. Here comes the attack then. Around the outside, coming in to Quarry Bend, and it's going to be a bit difficult to do that as Craig Broadbent defends the inside line. A slight drift there from Optisano as he goes on to the wet side of the track, of course not being cleared by the running cars, and it looks like he's going to have to tuck in back once again into that slipstream and wait for another opportunity because there was no door open there for that one.
Yeah, but that drift initiated there, just unintentionally by Broadbent, just on the apex, but a little bit of bumping the barge and sort of just racing in this series. It was all completely fair, but yeah, that is not over for Optisano. He's going to try and stay with Broadbent through the top of the mountain because there's absolutely no way you can overtake around here without someone going into the barriers. And we will see if he can make a move through the chase.
Well, that slight attack has allowed Walker to close right back into this fight, so he's within slipstream, 0.3 seconds behind Optisano, and Stephen White has found himself falling back now, so it's the role has completely switched. Wayne Walker now fully on attack once again, and looking to overtake down the inside into Forest Elbow as they come onto the Comrod. Looks like he may be going defensive down the inside. Yes, he is. That Capolden is absolutely dancing across the track, even now, through the left-hand kink onto the back straight, and it's incredible how these guys are wrestling these things back in order, but Walker's looking quite feisty now. He's looking for a gap potentially down the inside towards Chase. Bump coming through the apex at full pelt, and looks like he's going to wait for another opportunity. Not close enough this time by for Walker, just having to close that gap ever so slightly before he can apply some pressure. And it looks like we might have some lap traffic. Yeah, I think that's Matt Ogg, if I'm not mistaken, in the green Mustang there, just giving way to the leaders.
Yeah, I think Broadbent was slightly held up by Matt Ogg there, just meeting him into the chase at the worst possible opportunity, but that has not really hindered him at all there. Walker's dropped back again, look. Looks like Optisano and Broadbent are just a bit quicker through the final sector and able just to extend that gap, but the more these two fight, the more it's just going to keep Walker in their fights and just able to pick up any pieces. But once again, Optisano looking to make moves here. He's very close to the back of Broadbent. Looks like a penalty for Martin there. Not entirely sure what that one was for, but I'm sure we'll hear something a little bit later. Very sideways, both those cars once again. Yeah, Optisano not able to optimise the moves at the moment.
Looking down the inside.
Once again. Through the cutting, that seems to be a bit of a move that Optisano likes doing, but not able to maximise it this time, and Broadbent is able to maintain a position as they squirrel up the mountain.
Just got to make sure that we have cool heads here inside both of these cockpits. Of course, it can be slightly frustrating. We know that Optisano has the fastest lap so far. He looks slightly pacier at this time of the race, and of course, the first thing he wants to do is get past Broadbent. Nice, clear, open track ahead. No spray from any car ahead, and he can just go into full attack mode and start to extend his advantage. You know, that's what he wants to do, especially with Walker close behind as well. That's a massive danger as he goes completely sideways at the bottom of the S's. But of course he's got to make sure that when he does make that move, it's going to be nice and clean, tidy. It's a long race, and don't throw it away in the first 15-20 minutes.
You can say that he's very flouted the rear of the car on the barrier coming through Forest Elbow, and that has left Wayne Walker right on the back of him as well. So once again, I think Optisano just pushing a little bit too hard in the areas that don't necessarily matter, and he just loses the pace to Broadbent. And he just has to defend for the final part of the lap. So, I think, as you said, Optisano just needs to cool his head a little bit.
Onto the grass.
Chase as well. That's going to leave Walker right next to him and looking to make a move into the final corner. Looks like he's managed to get the power down and is able to continue, but Walker looks the inside, showing his nose, making Optisano aware that he's there as Optisano goes wide of the apex once again, sideways off the final corner. But Broadbent throwing a bit of a lifeline there and is able to extend his lead once again.
Yeah, very lucky that didn't turn into a full lock into the left-hand side. Of course, that right tyre did go onto the grass, and at the moment he was powering down as well. So very lucky indeed that the car didn't snap to the left and go in front of Walker there. But all is well, and they all settle in. It seems like they're all evenly spaced as well. Having said that, about 0.5 seconds between all four cars as they lead their way up into the mountain. And Brett Gooden, has to be said, is doing well to keep them within striking distance, so to speak. He's just a further 3 seconds off these leaders, and he's kind of finding himself a bit on his own as we have a battle for P7 starting to emerge now. So Chris McLennan and Billy Ebenhauser now fully in battle in full swing, should I say. As we come into the first sector.
Yeah, going through the cutting here, not able to, well, obviously that's not an overtaking opportunity unless you're Optisano, but through the mountain now, this is going to be how it should stay. So Ebenhauser just needs to stay on the back of McLennan here and just keep him within striking distance to use the slipstream along Conrad and get the position he needs through the chase and the final corners of the lap. So there's two different kind of aspects of Bathurst. There's the first and the third sectors where you can attack and you can make positions, and there's the mountain section where you just need to stay where you are and not die. And as I say that, McLennan into the barriers. That's unfortunate. Looks like he's able to get away with it, but that was quite the clout into the barrier, losing the position to Ebenhauser. You just need to keep the car on the road in these sections. Looks like he just locked up.
Oh, sorry, Stephen White's had a massive problem. Stephen White is all the way down in P6 at the moment. He's losing positions left, right and centre. Billy Ebenhauser going by. Chris McLennan soon to go by as well. Mark Young is in the background also looking to overtake. He's back up to speed now, coming down Conrad. Not too sure what it was. Maybe a mistake at the top of the hill, it seems.
Yeah, there doesn't seem to be any damage on the car, so he's and the pace doesn't seem to be affected. But yeah, maybe just a small mistake there from Stephen White, dropped him off the top three cars, and he is back down fighting in the midfield. The middle top 10 now. So unfortunate for Stephen White, but he's got plenty of time to recover.
Just on board with Chris McLennan now, so both cars potentially suffering from damage. Of course, we saw Chris go into the barrier. There's a front left impact into the concrete wall, so fingers crossed it's not caused too many issues as he gets this bit wiggly on the exit of the first corner. But Billy Ebenhauser is slowly but surely getting away. Stephen White is applying pressure, and we've got battles for second and sixth at the moment, so we'll do our best to capture as much of the action as possible. Which one is currently closer? Looks like Daniel Optisano is getting under pressure from Wayne Walker once again. Same story as before. Kind of closes up to Craig Broadbent, then goes for an overtake, and then finds himself in trouble with Wayne Walker as they come up to the top of the mountain.
Yeah, I think Opsano just needs to settle in a little bit more here. It's not his style. He likes to push at every opportunity and gain time, but he just needs to settle in and find where he can best overtake Broadbent here, because it's obviously not going to be through the mountain section, and he needs to just keep the car on the road and just try and find the position when he can, because if he keeps pushing as he is on Broadbent, then he's just going to lead Walker right back up to him once again. So the cycle continues, and he doesn't get anywhere. So just needs to take a moment, I think.
Just mentioning as well that some of the cars have come back out of the garage, so I'm not too sure what's happened there. I think maybe they get released again or something, I'm not too sure. But we've got John Wade as a retiree, but Gigi Izan, and I think there was another person that retired as well, but they've all rejoined the race, Dave.
Oh, fantastic. It's good to see that everyone is back underway, but apart from John Wade, obviously it's very unfortunate for him, but I don't think he actually got away at the start. I did see at on the start someone didn't get out of their pit box, so maybe some technical issues there for John Wade, causing him to retire early on, which is obviously something that can happen to anybody. We don't have mechanical failures really in sim racing, but we do have hardware and software failures, so it is made up for in that way. Looking at Billy Ebenheiser trying to hold off Stephen White, who's going to look to recover his position. Look how much the cars are just...
So I'm going to have to cut over to this battle for second as Wayne Walker has had enough of staying behind Opposano as he charges up the mountain. Looked left and right as much as he could to get past, but there was no opening available to him before the braking zone. Billy Opposano sideways completely, and Walker up on the inside as we approach the cutting into the barrier. Goes Opposano. Don't think there was any fault on Walker there. Doesn't look like they made contact. Maybe just trying two different lines. The car was very unsettled coming out of Quarry Bend, so Wayne Walker basically took advantage of that situation, very much so how Opposano did the same to him through the cutting at the very start of the race. But now into second place there for Wayne Walker, and Craig Broadbent, the only man in his way to claiming victory here at Mount Panorama.
Yeah, plenty of time to go, but yeah, I think Opposano just trying to defend the position from Wayne Walker. He just went too wide, just sent it into the barrier, but looks like the car's okay. These cars seem to be pretty tough when it comes to these concrete barriers, so he is able to continue, and he is already right on the back of Wayne Walker, and he's going to be challenging down Conrad here. There's a little bit of time there through Forest Elbow. It looks like that's the point where Wayne Walker is stronger on the exit of Forest Elbow. He's just able to put the power down where everyone else is kind of sliding. But Opposano not quite close enough to make a move through the first part of the chase into the braking zone. He's going to send it down the inside. He's going to try. He's not quite close enough, but that got very close to being an overlap there for Opposano. So very confident on the brakes in these conditions, and sideways on the exit once again.
Yeah, using all the curb, unsettling the car once again, coming out into the penultimate corner. And sideways, completely entering the final corner into Murray's. It's completely 180, 360 for Opposano in Murray's corner. Just too much speed under braking, and that is all it takes to make that major mistake. And of course, Wayne Walker now up the road by another 7 seconds. You've got Brett Goodman close behind by 2 seconds. So that's all gone horribly wrong there for Opposano.
Yeah, I think he's just pushing a bit too hard in the early stages. I don't really see the need for him to fight as hard as he is for the for the lead when there's
Stephen White off.
Stephen White off again. That's big damage. It looks like possibly.
It looks like maybe he just messed up the first corner entry, went into the gravel trap and on the grass as well for good measure, and has lost several more positions, now down into 8th place. So,
yeah, I don't think that car is sitting quite right, is it? Which is unfortunate. He just managed to get past Billy Ebenheiser that I saw. Brace's got past Gooden as well. Gooden's going down the order. He's had an accident as well.
So it's all happening on this particular lap. That's 3 spins / crashes, all in the same sector, even the same sector and everything as one another. Same lap, same sector. It's all going on. Stephen White gets past without any issues, although he seems to be quite cautious on throttle now, so maybe there is some damage to the car. Not too sure how that occurred. Maybe he went for the overtake on Billy and it all went wrong. Not too sure. We'll have to wait and see. But of course, now to the lead of the race, Craig Broadbent leading ahead of just about, at least, from Wayne Walker. Coming into Forest Elbow, onto Conrad they go. This will be a great overtaking opportunity now for Walker. He has the ability to relax now that Optisano is out of the picture, and we could see a change for the lead here.
Yeah, look how much more composed the number one car is as it comes through Forest Elbow and onto the power. He's just able to just control it that much better than Craig Broadbent, it seems, but not able to quite make the move done through the chase. Looks like Broadbent just able to get the car stopped a bit better on the brakes. I think Walker going a little bit deep on the brakes there, trying to close the gap. But I think Craig Broadbent's going to be driving a lot in his mirrors at the moment. Just going to try and keep Wayne Walker behind as long as he can. Gets a bit wide of the apex, but is able to continue on. Is that Walker? I thought Walker's pulling over then. Looks like
he's trying to get out of that spray, isn't he, so he can see where he's going and set up and move across for the braking zone. So let's have a look at the last laps as they came through. It was a 2:22.7 for Craig Broadbent, 2:22.2 for Wayne Walker. So half a second faster on that particular lap. So really starting to put on the pressure now for the lead of the race. However, Craig Broadbent has a better fastest lap at 2:19.3, so he definitely has the pace available. Whether or not the tyres are starting to give way as he's completely sideways through the entirety of that corner. But I'm sure we'll still see plenty of action between these two. They are very pacey. Craig Broadbent typically is a few tenths off Wayne Walker, unfortunately, but he definitely knows how to put up a good fight, that's for sure. He's had victories of his own this season, and he's definitely up there in the standings, so this is going to be important here for Craig.
Absolutely. We're coming to the end of the first stint as well, as I think we see Stephen White in the pits, possibly for a scheduled stop, I am assuming. John Sloat as well in the pits as well. So we'll start to see some strategy come into this in a second. Will they be changing tyres? Will they be able to, will they last any more than a stint? We'll have to wait and see. Because we know obviously wet tyres can last a bit longer than soft tyres. But the way these guys are driving, I would not be shocked if they were shredded and pretty much slicks by now. Oh, Wayne Walker very sideways there coming into Forest Elbow. He managed just to keep it out of the barriers, but that was a fantastic save from Wayne there. It was very nearly a disaster.
Yeah, it looked like it was almost going to be a visit to the barrier, didn't it? But well maintained there by the championship leader. Craig Broadbent able to breathe ever so slowly as he gains a few tenths down Conrad as the speed difference comes into play. And as you say, a few guys coming into the pits now. Stoddard, Matt Ogg into pit lane as well. So they are coming to the end of their first stint. And as you say, I wonder if they will change the tyres, because the wet compound, we don't have any data on them. We've never seen them in a long endurance race such as this, as both our leaders now dive into the pits.
Yeah, we'll see here. Now, do tyres get changed? Oh, a little bit of a scruffy entry there from Craig Broadbent as he comes in. Very difficult. Oh, look at that. Wayne Walker trying to do a Sebastian Vettel to sleek up the inside of the Craig Broadbent on the pit entry, but not able to get that done. It's a very difficult pit entry here at Bathurst. It's a very tight chicane, and I personally, in my sim racing exploits, have sent it into the wall many times there. But into the pits we go. Broadbent's stop is first Optisano in the top 5, top 6 even, all in the pits at the same time. So we'll see what happens in their pit stops. We see here a battle for 11th place. Brad May is defending from Mark Young. They're side by side coming down. Conrad here into the chase. Who's going to have the best line through here? Who's going to have the biggest set on them as they come into the chase now side by side? Mark Young gets the move done before the corner and is able to continue on into the braking zone. Can he hold on and secure that position? Yes, he can for the time being. And as they go through chase in towards the final corner, that is Mark Young into 11th position. And Brad Mays comes into the pits after that. Stephen White behind is trying to make up a few positions after his earlier incidents and his pit stop. So we'll see how he gets on and where he comes out once everyone has finished their pit cycle.
Yeah, Craig Broadbent once again back up to speed. Wayne Walker in the slipstream and giving chase So they've pretty much re-emerged where they went into the pits. No issues or dramas there. We have battles starting to emerge up and down the order. In fact, a lot of people still in pit lane, all the way from 9th through to 13th. Alex Daly bringing up the end of that particular pack. And we have a fight between Mark Young and Jacob Frazier as well. So things starting to get feisty as we come to the end of our first round of pit stops.
Yeah, I'm not sure if these two guys changed tyres. We're looking at the battle for 11th place while that was going on, but yeah, look how much they're pushing. It seems like the pace has already been ramped up between these two. So they, from what I can see, it looks like they may have changed tyres because they are really starting to push now. Coming through the S's there is Craig Broadbent. We're riding alongside him. And we'll bring up his, well, we won't bring up his webcam. And coming through into Forest Elbow, he's still got Wayne Walker about half a second behind him. He's going to have to think about defending here. He's getting very close to the barriers, maximising the very little space you have there. And just look how wet the track still is. There is absolutely no drying line. The rain has not stopped or is even thinking about stopping at the moment. So for the time being, they will carry on with these conditions, just nursing the cars around as best they can. Into the chase, braking now, and then yeah, Wayne Walker for the time being just letting the tyres come up to temperature and just holding on to that as we see Philip battle here for 5th place with Frazier, White and Ebenheiser. Sorry, just Frazier and White just battling there. Mark Young is in there as well. He has dropped back a couple of positions after the pit stops.
Yeah, not too sure why the webcams aren't working, so I do apologise for that. It's usually a great view to see how the guys are handling the car and, of course, dancing away in these wet conditions as well. But we've got a great battle here. Mark Young and Billy Ebenhauser are just in the background there fighting for P6. As Mark Young gets very sideways coming through Murray's corner and has to yield the position as he loses speed. So that's a nice easy overtake there for Billy as he makes his way through. And yeah, the next battle we've got is again for the lead, but they're already at 0.6 seconds between one another as the tyres will come back up into play. And all chasing their way up the hill. Chris McLennan doing well to recover as well. He's obviously had the earlier impact into the barrier. That's impacted his race after that slight bit of damage, but he's in 8th place and slowly but surely beginning to close down on these guys ahead, especially Mark Young. He's very sideways at the moment, having a bit of issue getting back up to speed.
Yeah, I think tyre temperature might be an issue for Mark Young there. He's really struggling to get the car down under power. So he's dropping back from Ebenheiser and White. So you will soon have Chris McLennan in number 3 car breathing down his neck. Yeah, so the car, it doesn't seem to be able to put any power down. The car is sliding around everywhere. It's got a yellow flag in sector 2 briefly. It looks like someone just had a minor incident. All good though. It doesn't look like anything has changed in the standings, so everyone is all okay for now.
I think it might be Bradley Martin. His sector 1 was 1 minute 21, unless that's part of his pit stop perhaps, and he's past the start finishing line.
Yeah, I think he was one of the last people to come out of the pit.
But besides that, sector times are all fine.
Yeah. Alpitano doing a decent job of coming back at the leaders. He's about 3.5 seconds back now and closing. As we see someone off on the chase there, if we cut to that camera. Who was that?
That was Bradley Martin, so I was right then. So there is issues there for the 76.
So missing a front splitter, so he's gone into a barrier somewhere.
The Team Navy car coming back into the pits, so that's going to be really bad news for his race because, of course, they've just serviced the cars, so those cold tyres are obviously not getting up to temperature quick enough for him, and he probably visited the barrier somewhere, most likely in the first sector as well, because that's where I said that sector time was really high. So unfortunate there for Bradley Martin.
Yeah, but he's back in the pits and it's safe for now. As we see this 3-car battle here. This is Alex Daly in a bit of a sandwich of kind of a Mustang sandwich here. So coming down through the S's now and into Forest Elbow. He has got Stoddard in front of him and Mays behind him. So this is a quite tasty battle here. It's all sideways there. Goes Daly. He's able to keep it going, very similar to what happened to Walker, as he brushed the barrier there slightly. No, Maze there was a bit close to hitting the barriers as well, so very ragged, these cars. But looks like there is just about a line starting to develop on the chase, at least, as water started to get brushed aside, but there's still a lot of standing water as Daly really struggles to get into the outside of the corner there. He's gone wide into the grass. Is he going to join just out of the way of Maze there, and Maze is able to continue on and go through. And yeah, Daly just on the wrong line, gets wide on the exit, and yeah, that puts him into the gravel.
He's having further issues, is Alex Daly. He's going all over the place in the background there, struggling to get back up to speed. Again, it's going to be those cold tyres, isn't it? It takes time to really nurse them into the right operating temperatures. And we do have the leaders going tooth and nail at the moment as well. We'll try and keep our eye on both of them, but it looks like Wayne Walker is closing down on Conrod Straight at the moment. He is in attack mode. He's down the inside on towards the chase. He's got the move done. He's cleared Craig Broadbent before getting to the apex itself. And here comes Craig Broadbent on the counter-attack. He's gone deep into the corner. There's a car stationary on the grass as they fight for the lead of this race. Craig Broadbent's in a great position as they come into Murray's. He's going to be on the inside line once again to retake the lead of this race. Walker pushes down the outside. They're still too wide even now going through the apex. There's a slight exchange of paint between the two of them. It's a drag race across the start-finishing line. Wayne Walker gets off into the power slightly better, and it looks like he's going to take the lead, which he does. That is incredible racing between these two. And now up the hill once again. It could be a chance for a counter-attack here from Broadbent.
Yeah, that was absolutely fantastic there, and Opposano is looking and going, yes, keep doing that, bring me closer. But yeah, absolutely fantastic drive from the two of them there, and Dwayne Walker using an opportunity to get the lead for now, and he's going to hope to just drive away from these two, but Broadbent is not done, it seems. He's still on the back. He should go as close as he can over the mountain, just stay on the back of Walker, and then he can challenge in exactly the same place that Wayne Walker did. So I hope you took notes, Craig.
Yeah, it was great respect between both drivers for that fight for the lead there. You know, plenty of racing room given. There was a slight exchange of paint work on through Murray's, but besides that, it was textbook moves from both of them, side by side through 3 to 4 corners. Great stuff to watch.
Maze has got himself past Stoddard as well as we were watching that just now, which is him up into 13th position. So good stuff from him. But yeah, Opposano really closing in here. He's gained another 2 seconds since we last had a look at the relatives on this pack. So he is once again pushing and is going to try and get himself back into this fight for the lead. And he's going to hope that he can pass Broadbent before Walker can get too far away.
Yeah, if you look at the last lap times coming in, it's a 2:19 for race leaders and 2:18.2 for Opposano. So there's a massive pace difference at the moment. Of course, the question will be, is he going to burn through those tyres too quickly now? Is he pushing too fast in the second half of this, or sorry, the second stint of this race?
Yeah, that'll be a question that will become evident soon. He goes to the inside of the chase. What a fantastically optimistic move. There's nearly contact between the two of them. And this fight still carries on the outside. Is Opposano going to try and go sideways? He loses the pace there and loses the power. That was a very optimistic move. That could have been a massive incident if they made contact there. But good driving from the two of them to keep going. But yeah, that was a very risky move there from Opposano.
Yeah, he's definitely the quicker of the two cars, it seems, at the moment. Craig Broadbent still needs to find a bit more pace, it seems, as they come across the start and finishing line. So 2:20 there for Craig Broadbent. Now Walker setting the 2:18s. So the pace now changing. Opposano is definitely on the same pace as the race leader at the moment. He needs to get past Craig in order to pursue Wayne Walker.
Yeah, he's not going to have the chance here. Looks like it's
oh, I heard a big crash somewhere. Someone's had a big crash. The game made that horrible crunch noise, which is typically associated with a massive impact. Sounds like it may be on the top of the hill, perhaps. There's no yellow sectors, so whatever it is, it has been cleared or still moving along. I'll try and keep an eye out for that. But yeah, still going tooth and nail here to Opposano on Craig Broadbent.
Interesting. I'm not sure if this is an issue or not, but Tyler Williams has shown that he's not done any stops yet, so whatever's going on there. But there's yellow flag in sector 2. Keep an eye on that as Opposano is closing once again on Craig Broadbent. He's sideways once again. He's really using all life in these tyres. He goes on the inside. That's not a move he can make. Very nearly contact once again between the two. Opposano is desperate to get past it and come through Skyline. Going down the mountain through the S's now. That was very optimistic to try and get that done. I think he's just possibly trying to spook Craig Broadbent into a mistake, possibly. But he's really throwing the car into every gap he can find.
He's certainly looking for any opening at the moment, isn't he? He's desperate to get past Craig Broadbent. At the moment, this will be an opportunity for him on Conrod Straight. He's very close enough for the slipstream. 0.2 seconds separating them as they come down onto the back straight. The downhill momentum carried with the Clean Skin Racing car. He's already passed Craig Broadbent now. They're still side by side. There's a slight overlap there for the orange Mustang, but going into the chase, he uses that extra bit of tarmac on the left to swoop down and take that position firmly into his control. So nice move there for Opposano.
Yeah, there was a bit inevitable, really, that he'd end up getting past, as he does seem to have the pace over Craig Broadbent. But as I come to some lap traffic now, I think that is possibly
Alex Daly.
As he's having some struggles at the moment, but he is getting out of the way of this battle. This will be Opposano's opportunity now to chase down Wayne Walker and see, because Wayne Walker's pulled a 3.5 second gap on these two cars as they've been battling, so and that gap continues to extend. So Opposano has some work to do. Hopefully he hasn't burned through too much of his tyres in the first half of the stint.
Well, only time will tell. We'll have to wait until the next few flying laps to see what kind of regular pace we're seeing, but Wayne Walker firmly into the 2.18s now in the second half, or the second stint. I keep saying second half of the race. I'm too used to the sprint races, Dave. But yeah, into the second stint. Craig Broadbent is slowly but surely starting to ebb away from the battle here for second place, unfortunately. So he is already 0.8 seconds behind Opposano. So the pace in that Holden really starting to show as he tries to apply some pressure and chase down the race leader, Wayne Walker. We have some good battles starting to emerge just behind inside the top 5. You've got Jacob Fraser, Stephen White recovering very nicely indeed. He finds himself P5 and just a second and a half behind 4th. And you've got Billy Ebenhauser, who's giving chase to Stephen as well. He's only a second or so behind that position. So all starting to really close up once again, and fingers crossed we'll see plenty of battles take place up and down the order once more.
Yeah, fantastic kind of first part of the race for Fraser there in the number 6 car. He's holding on to 4th position. I think he started in the 6th, I believe. So he's done very well. He's keeping the car up there, and he's battling off the upper midfield giants as we've seen. So he's doing a very good job so far to keep that car in a high position. But yeah, Stephen White recovering, starting to close that gap a little bit, but that battle will come to fruition in the next couple of laps. A couple of yellow flags popping up here and there as I think people just go wide, and maybe some brushes to the barriers. But very good job from Jacob Fraser so far. He's really leaving an impression in his first couple of races in the season.
He's got one of the giants coming up behind him now, though. Stephen White, he's giving chase, and it's closing down. And we're going to switch over to this battle for 15th instead, in fact, because this one's quite close indeed. Although, having said that, it's as soon as I switch over to it, it's actually widened up again. So maybe some issues there for Alex Daly. And I say that he goes completely sideways into the final corner, yeah. So he's stationary on the grass at the moment there. I think he's having a few troubles there in this second stint. Oh, careful how you rejoin, as Billy Ebenhauser just misses him as he tries to use all the track, but he's already there, stationary. Manages to avoid as Chris McLennan starts to enter the final corner. So that's not a good day here for Alex Daly. We have seen him recover quite nicely in previous rounds, so maybe we'll see a similar thing take place here this evening, but he's got a lot of work to do, that's for sure.
Yeah, he's had a few issues. It looks like maybe it's nursing some damage possibly on the car that's causing some handling issues. But not been the best to start the race for Daly, but hopefully the second half of the race as that comes up can improve for him. Fortunately, that's Kidas as well. He's had some issues. He's down to 15th from inside the top 10. So unfortunate start to the race for him as well. As we look at that, but Stephen White, as we are seeing here, is closing in on Jacob Fraser in the Chequered racing car, the monster liveried Mustang, and very sideways there. He's able to continue, just carry the pace, but everyone's so sideways through here. It's fantastic to watch. But yeah, doing a fantastic job at the moment. Stephen White is just creeping closer. Has gained a lot of time in the last lap. Gained about a second on Fraser here. So we'll see what Stephen White can do as he comes down through Skyline. The S is very kind of clunky over the curbs, using every single inch of track he can get his hands on in the Holden there. But yeah, we'll see if he's going to have a bit of slipstream coming through the on Conrad, very sideways as a half spin. He manages just about to hold it out the barriers, and here comes his old friend Billy Ebenezer to take the position away from him again. So yeah, Stephen White just having a bit of a mare at the moment.
Yeah, it was all coming together, and until it wasn't it? It was. It's so tricky in these conditions. You've got the spray from the car ahead, especially when you're chasing. It is very difficult to do. So I don't place any blame on these guys. It's really horrible conditions out there, especially at a circuit like Mount Panorama. It just is the worst possible combination you could ever ask for. And it looks like maybe Obertizano is starting to run into a few issues of his own, because he finds himself under pressure from Craig Broadbent once again. So we saw that gap go up to at least a second after his overtake, but now it's come right back down again, coming up the hill once more. So some issues possibly there for Clean Skin Racing.
Yeah, I think Obertizano just uses a lot of pace in the start of the stint, and then as it comes towards the end, the fuel burns off and the tyres start to wear out a bit more. He just loses that pace, the initial pace. So maybe that's why he was so desperate to get around Craig Broadbent. He knew that he'd really struggled in the kind of closing stages of this second stint for the pace. So started to come back to Broadbent a little bit, and Walker has just checked out. He's nearly 7 seconds ahead of these two cars, and the worries that we may have had at the start of the race, as he got a bit swamped off the line, has just been just kind of just non-founded, really. He's just off on his own.
I mean, there's still a long way in the race as we are slowly but surely approaching the halfway mark in this race. So 1 hour and 15 minutes still remaining till we get to the checker flag. But yeah, it's looking good so far for Walker. He just needs to go into time attack mode, which we've seen him do so many times before. Just, you know, put the visor down, focus away, and just focus on the next corner, until before you know it, you've got a 10-second lead over the rest of the field. You just saw him in the camera shot at the top there as he went over the crest down Conrad Straight. But of course, just one simple mistake and that can unravel the entire thing. So he's got to stay focused. And these guys aren't slow. They're going to be pushing him all the way to the checkered flag. So he's got to be very careful, very focused in order to win this one.
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen Wayne Walker, though. He knows how to keep pace in reserve. Obertizano off again. He's gone wide. A lot of understeer coming through the chase. Have to be careful if he's gaining too much time there, as he might get a bit of a slap from the stewards. But able to continue on. Those tyres can be dirty and a bit cold now. Sideways once again through the final corner. Yeah, this is all starting to play once again into Broadbent's hands. I think we're going to see this a lot coming through this race.
Yeah, that's actually 2 laps in a row where his time hasn't been counted by race control. So on the live timing, it's just a blank like slit across. There's no actually set time for the last lap, so that means that he's gone off track and it's been recognised by race control. They do only have a set amount of these that they can do before they get a penalty, so he's got to be very careful that that doesn't become a regular thing here in this race. Craig Broadbent obviously knows that, and he'll be looking on and thinking, I just need to stay with this guy and I'm going to take this position back sooner or later. And he's setting quite consistent lap times, 2:21s at the moment, sitting behind Obertizano. And it's a far-fetched pace, but even Walker is now dropping down into the 19s, so they are starting to find a bit of struggling a bit in the latter stages of this second stint.
It looks like we have 2 cars that are finishing their second stints now. Stephen White is in the pits, and Young as well. So we could see the leaders start to come through and start their third stint very shortly. But it's still a long way to go in this race. Over halfway through, as Obertizano very nearly sends it all the way at the top of the hill. Coming through Skyline now, he's able to gather it up, and Broadbent is just staying on the back of him, and just kind of like you can see that mistakes are starting to creep in for Obertizano. So he just needs to stick there and see if any more appear.
Now peering onto the Conrad straight once again. It looks like, big understeer moment and a touch onto the barrier for Race Tech still racing. Craig Broadbent just having a bit of understeer, and that has completely destroyed that opportunity. I thought we might have seen a chance down on the approach to Chase, but that's all unravelled as he made that slight error. He's got all that work to do once more. Oppositano up in the distance now, and another battler starting to unfold is Jacob Frazier and Billy Ebenhauser. Of course, Stephen White went into the pits. He's out of this particular fight for the time being. I'm sure he will re-emerge in a few minutes' time when they all service their cars for the second time, but firmly under attack now. Billy Ebenhauser within 0.4 seconds coming into the chase.
Yeah, not quite close enough to make a move here, but he just needs to stick with Fraser here and see if he can make any moves in the first corner. A little bit slow on the exit was with both the cars there, really, as they got over the curbs, but nobody making a pit stop. Like how much of the car, like Ebenhauser's car, is just squirreling. I guess it got a little bit unsettled coming over the crest, and just not finding the grip back on the wet surface, but it's really struggling for grip in the latter stages of this stint.
So it looks like maybe a slight error in that previous lap for Jacob Frazier coming across the start finishing lines, 2:24, which is about 3 seconds off the pace from what we're used to seeing, especially from his fastest lap, which was a 2:17. How the hell does he manage that? Very impressive stuff there from Jacob, but now finds himself under pressure for P4. Billy Ebenhauser is faster. Last lap with 2:21.5. So he's got the slipstream at the moment. He needs to make sure that he maintains that, and he seems to be losing a bit of ground. Jacob may be starting to get his act together after that slight mistake and really push into the distance once again.
Coming round, cutting there, very close to the barriers of Fraser, but he's able to continue on and put the power down where it's needed, just about. Just managing that gap to Ebenhauser at the moment, staying at roughly 7/10 of a second. So they just want to kind of keep that there for the time being, and if you can, gain a little bit on Ebenhauser as they come towards the end of this second stint. Coming over the top of Skyline now, and very bravely using the curbs. I would possibly avoid those in weather such as this, but it doesn't seem to be affecting the drivers too much.
I think the V8s are so heavy, it's like having a lorry go over the sausage curb. It doesn't really affect them, If it was an open wheel Formula Ford or something, I think I might be a bit more cautious. But with such a heavy car going over those things, they can just chew them up quite easily.
Kidas having further issues. He looks like he's had an issue coming out of the cutting part.
Someone's missing a front bumper as well. Sorry.
That's Kidas. He's missing his splitter. Is that Stoddard as well? Possibly
yes.
Missing his splitter?
And this is actually for position as well, Dave. They're a lap down off the leaders, but still fighting on, it seems. Stoddard, and Alex Kidas are fighting for 14th place at the moment, both with missing front wings.
So battle of the wounded here. It looks like Ebenhauser's come into the pits. He's seeing that this mayhem is going on ahead of him and decided, no, I'm just going to get away from that, which is very... big impact there for Kidas right into the barrier. That's going to cause some damage to the engine, surely, as he loses the position to Stoddard. But really struggling there. Just got a little bit too much wheel spin. As we look here at Stephen White is battling Paul Robertson side by side down Comrade, I believe that is, coming into the chase. Very just about there as Stephen White getting the room to get onto the racing line and is able to hold on into the chase. That's Paul Robinson going a bit deep. He's able to just about keep it on the tarmac, but he carries on as he can in 9th position.
Yeah, it looks like the battles are starting to emerge up and down. Billy Ebenhauser, they're in pit lane. My apologies. I thought on the timing boards they were really close, and I got really excited for no reason there. But
I just saw then Robertson in the background had a big half spin coming out the final corner. Looks like he was able to continue on as he was able to, but not ideal for him there, coming to finish that up just after being overtaken by Stephen White. But we should see the leaders start to appear in the pit lane very soon as the Battle of the Wounded continues at the top of the mountain.
Yeah, Craig Stoddard and Alex Kidas, they're still going for it. Craig Stoddard got by Alex Kidas a moment ago. The gap now down to 0.8 seconds on the timing sheets as they come through the S's. It was a nice cut through there by Alex Kiddis coming through that particular corner. Manages to gain quite a bit of ground, and that's going to put him in good stead for the race down Conrod. So will he be able to get a wide line, which he does. He's going higher on that particular corner. Should be able to get a nice cut back. Sliding slightly in the Mustang behind, but didn't work out as good as I had expected, as it's still fighting its way down the straight as they increase their speed.
Yeah, so the top just before Skyline looks like Starr got on the grass a little bit as well, so that would have made his tyres a bit dirty and a bit cold. But coming through the chase now, looks like everything's all okay. Is everyone able to get it stopped all okay? Yes, they are. No concerns at the moment. As we see...
all our leaders in pit lane. Craig Stoddart gets back underway. New tyres going on Wayne Walker's car, so that's a confirmed change. Craig Broadbent coming into pit lane as well. And Jack's going up, so we're confirmed new tyres on all of the cars at the moment. I didn't know if Coppertasanos has already serviced his, but I assume so. He'll follow the trend of the guys. But that is a lot of cars, busy, very busy pit lane at the moment.
Yeah, we see Stoddard in there as well, hopefully to repair that front end as Wayne Walker gets out, and Opposano just about gets out there ahead of Chris McLennan, who has made his way up to 5th position before the pit stops. But Opposano comes out. Walker is out miles ahead of everybody else, so he's got a very big gap there. Broadbent, I'm not sure if Broadbent has started moving out of his pit box yet or not, but he's going to have a bit of a gap to Wayne Walker. To Opposano. Yeah, Wayne Walker is just controlling this race at the moment as we come towards the halfway point of the race.
Yeah, just a few more guys to enter the pit lane before we settle in for officially the second half of the race. Just 7 minutes to go before that happens. And then we'll run through some mid-race results for you, see who's gone where and who's moved up from what position since qualifying, and the top 10 shooter that occurred here at Mount Panorama. And then we'll run through the results and see who's going to be the one that moves the most in the second half of the race as well. As we see Mark Young overtaking Paul Robinson in pit lane as well. You've got Liam Tollard-Williams in there, and also Bradley Martin. He's trying to recover as best he can in the 76, all the way down in 16th place. And it looks like things have settled down actually for quite a while, Dave. It doesn't look like there's much going on out on track at the moment. The pit lane has pretty much split everyone up for the time being. I'm sure action will resume once everyone settles back into a rhythm. But your race leader, Wayne Walker, is still in charge of this one by 10.5 seconds ahead of Opposano.
Yeah, it looks like Wayne has just settled into his groove and has found his pace here. As I said earlier, Wayne Walker knows exactly when to reserve pace when he needs it. He doesn't necessarily seem to be having any issues here. We know Opposano is quick on the start of the stint, so he's going to close that gap, but 9 seconds is a comfortable margin for the leader and the championship leader at the moment to extend his lead further.
Oh, he's got some traffic here. Not too sure who it was, but they were drifting through the first corner, drifting continuously on the charge up the hill as well. And that's the 101, so that's Brad Mays, another new starter to the series.
Yeah, Brad May's doing a pretty decent job so far in his in one of his first races in the series. 12th position at the moment. It's a fairly strong start. I haven't really seen him in any in any strife or troubles. So nice solid start for him in the series. We see John Slow there coming out of the pit lane and to continue on. The Happily Average Racing car currently sat in 13th position. John Slow getting a penalty there, actually, so that could have possibly been for speeding in the pit lane.
It was a drive-through, no stop there for that particular car.
So possibly track limits coming in for the number 81. Not entirely sure what the penalty was for. We'll see if we can find any details of that, but not ideal for the number 81, but he is able to carry on nonetheless.
I mean, to be honest, Dave, I'm very surprised that we've still got 18 out of 20 running cars. I mean, if I was in this race, I would definitely not be continuing, you know. It's almost like Niki Lauda kind of situation, isn't it, where you just refuse to race? It's too dangerous. It's, you know, Mount Panorama in the rain we've got here. I mean, I was expecting it to perhaps lighten slightly, and we'll get at least some dry running and have a dry racing line, so to speak, as the weather lightens. But it's just consistent downpour of rain. I think it's not as bad as what it was at the start of this race, but it's still far from ideal, that's for sure. There's no way we're going to be running slick compound tyres in this particular race.
No, absolutely not. Not unless it stops raining very soon and the sun comes out. We know how quickly it can get hot in Australia, especially at this time of year. But yeah, new best lap for Wayne Walker, 2:16.690. So that's quicker than qualifying pace. So the track condition definitely not quite as bad there, but Walker is absolutely flying at the moment, taking a good second and a half, I think, from last time. Yellow flag sector 1. I think that should disappear. Yeah, there it goes. So just a minor off, I think, for whoever that was. But yeah, as you were saying, it's been. I am shocked that we've got this many people. There's only 2 cars that have DNF'd, and only one of those, I think, was for anything other than kind of technical issues. So yeah, everyone's doing a fantastic job to keep running. John
Slow is coming back into pit lane again, so further issues for the Average Racing team. So not too sure if that's actually for a full service or if it's a further drive-through penalty, but he's going to lose position as Craig Stoddard is going to pass on the racing line outside on track limits, and that's a position lost there, unfortunately. But we're now officially halfway through the race, and I think we should run through the mid-race results with you, get an idea of who has done what and where we currently stand in the overall standings. So just bringing up the results for you. These are the mid results. Wayne Walker has led after that great overtake on Craig Broadbent not too long ago to take the lead of the race, and Daniel Opposano also doing the same for Clean Skin Racing. He sits tidy in second place, just shy of 8 seconds. Craig Broadbent in third for Race Tech Steel Racing, all top contenders in the championship, so all these points really do matter for these guys. Stephen White recovering brilliantly into P4 after his earlier woes. And then Billy Ebenhauser for Javastim, really good to see him inside the top 5. Jacob Frazier just missing out from where he started off in qualifying for P6. And then Chris McLennan in 7th for Noble Host Racing. Brett Gooden is in P8, followed by Mark Young in 9th. And then rounding out those top 10 positions is Paul Robinson. Moving on to our second sheet then, just outside those positions is Liam Tollard-Williams in 11th, followed by Brad Mays. He's having a good first few rounds, as Dave already said. Craig Stoddard, he's had a few problems, missing front bumpers, etc., and finds himself 13th. John Slow, he's having obviously further troubles, as we've just seen, and sits in P14. 15th goes to Alex Kidas. Alex Daly finds himself in P16. Rounding out those final running positions, Bradley Martin in P17. We've seen him enter the pit lane a few times for repairs. And Gigi Izan in the Javasim Esports team in P18th. Matt Ogg and John Wade sadly retiring at this stage of the race. But again, already mentioned, considering the conditions that we've got, very good. Hats off to all the guys that are still running out there. It is really horrible conditions. Quick mention to the sponsors once again before we go back to the racing action for you guys. If you do like what you're seeing, we've got Service Australia. They're giving us this great connection that we're seeing right now. We're live streaming from the UK, and even we have got nice smooth broadcast going on here, so amazing service from them. So do check those guys out. And Noble Host Racing, they support the series in every way possible, do all the tracks for us and all the overlays that you're seeing, so hats off to those guys. They put in a lot of effort as well. If you are interested in the series, go down into the description, you've got all your links there, and you can quickly get in touch with the guys and see if you can join for maybe the final few rounds or potentially the next season that comes up. And they also run other series such as GT3 and other stuff as well. Great bunch of guys if you're down under or even connecting from elsewhere in the world. It would be great to race with these guys. And of course, you're just joining us for the second half of the Bathurst race. We've got just 57 minutes remaining in the second half, and if you haven't noticed, it is absolutely pouring it down here in the second half of this race, with Wayne Walker still leading. And that is your mid-race update.
Thank you very much, Matt. Yeah, Wayne Walker doing a stunning job. It got a little bit scary as you're running through that. He got quite close to the barrier a couple of times, but still carrying on, and he is doing a fantastic job. I did see, I think, Alex Daly get into the wall quite hard as well at some point, so he might be returning to the pits very soon. Yellow flag in sector 3. Can't see any issues. That have now disappeared, so I think someone's going a bit wide, possibly at the chase. Yeah, we'll see. Alex Kiedas's been in the pits for a very long time, it seems. 7 minutes he's been in pit lane, so apparently not. There he is.
Refresh your overlay. Sometimes it does go out on RF2. It's one of their wonderful features. But yeah, he did have that missing front bumper, didn't he, for quite some time when he was battling with Craig Stoddard earlier on, before we saw that pit stop. So potentially getting a lot of repairs done at the same time as getting the car serviced, perhaps.
Yeah, possibly, but yeah, still going, still in the top 3 quarters of the field, and is just having his own race at the moment. A bit unfortunate, he did start within the top 10. I think he got a bit, he was a bit frustrated with the qualifying performances. He was not quite there. Didn't quite maximise the pace that he had, but yeah, plenty of time left to recover some positions for Alex Kiedis. Looking further upfield, the gaps are really starting to spread out now. Walker 10 seconds ahead of Opposano 9 seconds ahead of Broadbent, and then Broadbent 8 seconds ahead of White. So the top 4 or 5 cars all separating quite a lot. In fact, everybody's fairly spread out. The closest battle we might have is Kiedis and Stoddard starting to close in on each other, with Mays only about 2.5 to 3 seconds up the road. Yeah, Ebenheiser doing a fantastic job here in the Java Sim Esports car. He's been threatening good results throughout the season. Good top 5 would be good for him here, but plenty of racing left to go this evening. And we'll see exactly what he can pull off in the closing stages of the race. Thoughts so far? I mean, once again, we're very impressed that everyone's able to continue racing on such a torrid circuit in terms of conditions, and taking so much concentration. But we're surely going to start seeing some more mistakes creep in as the fatigue starts to set in.
I mean, as you say, we're used to seeing sprint races throughout the whole season, similar to the real championship. However, this kind of task, shall we say, is monumental. It can't be understated in any way. Mount Panorama is very tricky at the best of times, and the rain here is definitely amplifying the task of getting to the checkered flag. We've had 3 retirements now. Gigi Izan is the new one on the list, so we have 17 running out of 20, which is still astounding considering. Wayne Walker, I mean, how someone stays that consistent for that long, I will never know. Again, it's not human, it's something else. Opposano is giving good chase. He's currently setting 2:19s, but that gap is staying steady around 8 to 10 seconds. It seems to ebb and flow as time passes. So far, we've seen some great battles throughout the field, up and down the order. We've seen a lot of repairs take place at the same time. I mean, Stephen White, he's recovered after going all the way down into P10, I believe, was the furthest that he went. Now finds himself back in 4th, so that's got to be a recovery drive of this race so far. And still 1 hour to go, despite everything that's happened. It's still only halfway through. I think that's what's daunting for most of them. I wouldn't even consider looking at how much time is left, because it would just be so depressing, wouldn't it? Because you'd look at it, you think, I've done all this, I'm absolutely shattered. Oh, I've still got to do this all over again. All of that experience for a second time. And still, at least, I believe, will be another full service and maybe a potential splash to the finish as well.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you look at a longer endurance race, say if you're doing a 6-hour race, you might only do maybe a 1 hour stint and then get out the car and have your teammates take over for an hour. Doing 2 full hours of like, solid racing is very tiring, especially in these cars, especially on this track. So, yeah, it takes a certain amount of mental focus and mental stamina just to kind of get to the end here, and also physical stamina as well. It's going to be tiring, especially if you're running, high-end, direct drive equipment, stiff pedals as well. As I know a lot of people like to run kind of stiff brake pedals as well. So, yeah, I think there's some guys might be getting out of their sim race later broken men.
I'm sure they'll be able to share their experiences when we do the winner interviews later on in the live stream after the checkered flag is dropped. But certainly, it's a shame that the webcams aren't working for some reason. I can't get them to function once again. But just by looking on that, I can see it on my screen, and you can see the steering wheel inputs. They're constantly jigging it left and right, trying to keep the car in order, as Billy Ebenhauser just demonstrates that perfectly as he nearly goes side on into the barrier. But they're constantly having to rectify all of the inputs from the cars, especially under throttle, coming out of some of the slower corners like Murray's and through the cutting, etc. All those really high, tough corners that you've got here at Mount Panorama. And, to be able to focus for this long, it's a real feat for them to all to achieve. But we're now on board with Stephen White as he makes his way through the lap and trying to give chase to Craig Broadbent, which he is slowly but surely clawing into that gap. It's currently sitting at 8 seconds between the two of them, and their lap times are about 0.2 to 0.3 seconds faster on the side of Stephen White. So he is slowly clawing his way back into those podium positions, but still a fair bit to go.
Yeah, still plenty of the race to go, but yeah, you might want to start kind of pushing that a little bit more if you can, just to try and catch up with Broadbent, because before he knows it, come to the end of the stint and he'll have to do all of that again. But yeah, you've got to make sure there isn't any mistakes creeping in as the fatigue starts to set in. But yeah, Steve White doing a fantastic recovery drive at the moment and setting some fairly consistent laps as well as he's getting into that groove. See here, Paul Robinson in 10th position here. He's got Tyler Williams closing in behind him as well, about a second back. Coming down Comrade, I believe that is. And oh no, not Comrade, that's so the beginning of the lap. Going through Quarry now, a little bit wide of the apex out of Paul Robinson, but at this point in lap time, it's not a huge concern. Tyler Williams doing a fantastic job, looking to break into that top 10, getting a few more points. There's 50 minutes of the race remaining still, so still a very long way to go, and we'll see who can start to gain a bit more time. Robson looks like he's taking a bit more shallow lines at the moment on the circuit. I think just to, as I say, I think it's a little bit wide, but he's just being conservative with his driving at the moment. Doesn't want to make any huge mistakes. We've seen people really struggling in these conditions so far. It looks like Alex Daly, unfortunately, has also retired from the race. So down to 16 drivers left in the race, and Paul Robinson, just managing that gap. He's pulled another half a second or so from Tyler Williams, so not doing a bad job at all of keeping him at bay. Looks like Tyler Williams got a bit of a torrid run out of Forest Elbow and has dropped back to about 2 seconds behind Paul Robinson. But we're talking about number 7 car, Mark Young, in the pits. See what Matt is able to continue using the cameras to see if there we go. We've got some changes here. We've got Stallard and Kidas battling once again. These two cars have been going at it all race, but at least this time they are battling with front
wings.
Yeah. So coming through the first sector here, Kidas going in the inside into the cutting there, not able to make that stick, and is just going to have to stick with Stadar for the time being up the mountain and possibly make a move through the chase. But It'll just need to tuck in under the rear wing of that Mustang, and taking that very, very
He's got
literally.
past.
Yeah, was that a bit of contact there between the two of them, or did
No,
Stoddard just make
I think Craig Stoddard just made a big mess of that particular corner coming up the hill, and then Alex Kiedis down the inside. Always had a big moment there through the top of the hill. That is Skyline, I believe. No, sorry, it's top of the hill, which is Solomon Park. But it looked like he was going to completely go off into the gravel trap, but nicely held there by Kiedis, making his way through that set of corners now.
Yeah, and he's just going to try and extend that gap to Stoddard, give himself a little bit of a buffer. Because we know Kiedis does have the pace to be up in the top 10, but he'll want to get there as soon as possible. Oh, we've just cut away from the worst possible time there.
Sorry, my apologies.
One mistake. It looks like he managed to keep out the barriers, but that is putting him right under pressure from Stoddard once again. Again, just the power going down a little bit too early, as we've seen Kiedis do a few times throughout this evening. But he's managed to maintain that gap for the time being. Stoddard not close enough to make any moves into the chase. See Stephen White possibly coming into the pits now. Might be a bit early for a stop possibly. That could just about be on time.
I think that was where we had the repairs where Stephen went into the wall. I think he went in just a few moments earlier than everyone else for a service, so he should still be fine for the end of the race. I don't think he'll have to service the car an extra time, but he re-emerges now just alongside Alex Kiedis, it seems, as he gets back up to speed. That's not for position, of course, they're still a lap down, but he'll be glad to be ahead, that's for sure, and not behind the car and having to suffer from that spray. Although Alex Kiedis is putting up a fight here. He's still got a slight overlap before backing out, going into that particular corner. So it looked a bit, for a moment there, he was going to fight him.
Yeah, that wouldn't have been the best idea, I think. But Kiedis really struggling on the power there. The tyres start to wear. It really gets difficult to put the power down onto the wet surface. Because obviously the more these tyres wear, the more they become just like slick tyres. Very sideways again. He's in the barrier hard again as Kiedis. Once again, issues with the right foot. Just putting the power down too early. Looks like the car is okay. Oh, that car is
no,
it's going
to have tracking issues after that massive contact. That's going to completely take that front right-hand wheel out of alignment coming into the next few corners. So he's going to have to manage that or either pit early, one of the two. And considering he's already come in for repairs outside of his full service on previous occasions, that's not going to be ideal for his strategy coming into the final stages. And you saw the car coming down through the S's, just how twitchy that was.
Yeah, this race definitely is one to forget for Kiedis here. He's really not having the time of his life out there. Issues with the wet weather, I think, once again, as the power gets down, the car just twitches and is just not happy. So maybe there's some underlying damage from earlier on that's is elected not to fix and is just causing issues. We see Fraser there getting a little bit off the grass as we have Gooden in the pits for his scheduled pit stop. But Kiedis not really having a race to remember here.
Maybe some battles about to emerge here for 9th and 10th place. This is Paul Robinson and Liam Tollard-Williams. They were doing battle earlier on as well, but it looks like that gap is starting to widen once again. Stephen White moving up the order as Brett Gooden enters the pit lane, as already mentioned. So he'll be looking to recover back into those top 4 positions after his early pit stop. And we will be approaching yet another service window here, Dave, before going into, I believe there'll be one more after this, and that'll be a sprint to the checkered flag.
Yeah, now this is where the interesting strategy comes in. You've got to be good at your maths to figure out how much fuel you're using per lap and how much to put in on the final stop, because you won't need a full tank to get to the end after this next service. So could be where you gain or lose positions is in the pit stops and the final final dash. So we'll see who can.
Oh, Brett Gooden and Liam Tollard-Williams pretty much side by side, it seems, for position. Here they come. This is for 9th place, and it looks like Williams is going to take the position just simply because Gooden doesn't have enough speed coming out of the pit lane, but that's a good overtake there ahead of the pit stops.
Yeah, that'll be one that Brett Gunn's not too worried about losing. He's obviously just come out of the pit lane. He's certainly got a lot more pace than Williams. Jesus, that was close to the back there. Just being very forceful, getting on the inside through the cutting and then getting the position back into ninth. So, yeah, I was about to say, it's one he's not too worried about losing, as he will overtake them as soon as they pit.
Just takes it back.
Yep, never mind. Brett Gunn in the 88, just dancing that car all the way through, and he's right on the back now of Paul Robinson.
He's going to go down the inside here. That is very bold move indeed, especially come through Skyline. I think he's alongside the Skyline. He's cleared completely. So yeah, I guess they know that it's not for position, as in they're not fighting for it because they still need to go into the pits themselves, I guess. So maybe they thought it's best not to get involved in this.
Yeah, I saw then Brett Gooden was determined to come through and not lose time behind slower traffic, and Paul Robinson thought, okay then, and just got out of the way. But we see Broadbent and Ebenheiser in the pits now. Broadbent is just coming out of the pit lane. Ebenheiser is just coming into his stop, so that puts Broadbent down to 5th for the time being. But that is his stop done. That's going to be very close on fuel towards the end, that isn't it? With 41 minutes remaining.
I think they should be fine. I believe that they can go about 25 minutes to half an hour on fuel, obviously depending on how pacey they are around the lap, which we obviously know that isn't the case considering the conditions. So they should be safe.
We'll have to wait and see towards the end of the race, but probably hoping he's got that calculation right, as Walker is into the pits as well, and that is Kiedas's front bumper once again sat on the grid. So I think Kiedas has had more issues there. I think very distinctive bright yellow Mustang front splitter. So
there'll be plenty of souvenirs at the end of this race. It's a bit like Marshalls in the real world. They keep the pieces of carbon fibre, don't they? There's going to be a lot of those front bumpers laying around. But unfortunately, he's able to continue on, which is the main thing. Or no, Alex Daly has retired from the race, the 192, so that is unfortunate. So we're down to 16 running cars with 40 minutes left.
Yeah, Daly been at the race for a while. I think it's just had too many issues, I think, and maybe one issue too many caused some damage to the car that couldn't be repaired. So unfortunate for the 192, but hopefully he can come back in Gold Coast, and hopefully the weather conditions will be a little bit better by then. But yeah, Walker and Optisano in the pits at the moment, so they'll be on their penultimate pit stop now. 40 minutes left of the race as Walker comes out of the pit lane there. He had about 10 seconds gap before the pit stop, so we'll see how that plays out when the gaps recalculate themselves. I assume it won't be too different. Landing in the pits as well from 3rd position, and Fraser as well. He is back down to 5th. I think that's we're expecting Stephen White to come through both those cars. So Fraser back into 6th, McLaren in 5th. McLaren in 6th, Fraser in 5th. So yeah, everything is as it should be at the moment, I think. I think we're just expecting Billy Ebenheiser to come through those cars as well. There he goes. So yeah, the weather not looking any better, I would say.
No.
My comments from earlier, which I will not repeat, is still holding true. There's still standing water all over the track, and the rain is still coming down. No sign of that stopping at all. So yeah, this is going to be a fully wet race till the very end. So you see McLennan is just ahead of Gooden there. So He's going to want to get his tyres up to temperature as soon as possible to keep the pace over the number 88, so he can maintain that 6th position.
Yeah, I think we're starting to pass that phase of the race where everyone's doing their own thing slightly differently, so that they're taking a bit more fuel, a bit less fuel, that kind of thing. And as we come into those final few pit services, hopefully we'll see the grid close back up once again, where they're all starting to push for the final time before reaching the checkered. So this will be the second to last stint, of course, the penultimate stint, as you've already said. And that final stop, that'll be the true marker of whether or not they've done things correctly and whether or not they're going to find themselves fighting or relaxing at the end of the race.
So in that last stint there, Walker's getting another 3 seconds off Obedisano. So that gap is coming down. So it looks like Obedisano is starting to push quite hard, as we see Robson in the pits there. Him and Tyler Williams have been having their battle. Tyler Williams able to jump Robson in the pit lane there, so that'll be very good for Will there. Liam. Looks like the gap is at the top of the table. The gap is coming down between Walker and Obisano slightly, but how much of that is just the gaps rearranging themselves, and how much of it is actual pace from Obisano, we'll have to wait and see. But it was 10 seconds before the pit stops. Now about 12.
Yeah, it's a good stop there from Wayne Walker. As usual, he's got his markers correctly to perfection, should we say. The lap times for the last lap, that's including the service time, both in 3:12s. There's only actually 0.2 seconds between them. So there was actually identical pit stops for that particular lap, so no time gained or lost. So whatever time that he's made is on the out lap or the in lap before coming into service. So Obisano's got a bit more work to do as he slams the car into the wall. It wasn't a massive impact, but the rear end of the car did make contact as he tries to find some temperature once again in those wet compound tyres. But that's not going to help his cause in chasing down Wayne Walker. And of course, all he needs to do, we know that Wayne Walker's comfortable leading. He'll just go into time attack mode and set those lap times as needed. He'll be watching the difference between the next car, and he'll just adjust his pace accordingly and look after the tyres when he can. So it's going to be very difficult here for Obisano. He's basically got to be in full attack mode in order to chase down Walker. And of course, the trade-off there is that the tyres are going to burn through quickly.
Yeah, it looks like Obisano is focusing on that early stint pace, trying to close the gap as much as possible. He is doing it under 12 seconds now coming into the chase, even with the contact with the wall. But if he's careful, if he's not careful, the mistakes we saw earlier on are going to start creeping back in, which is to the detriment of Obisano. We have seen that a few times this season.
Well, he set a purple sector 1 there in that outlap of his, so the tyres are doing their job. However, it did come at a price, of course. Last lap was a 2:15.731, new fastest lap of the race from Obisano last time by. That's at least an entire 1.2 seconds faster than Wayne Walker on his outlap, so he is starting to apply some pressure now.
Yeah, he's really gunning for it. That's a statement there from Obisano to say, I am coming for you, Wayne. But we'll see if he can maintain this pace throughout the rest of the stint, and whether Walker is going to respond, whether he says, okay, I'll go a little bit faster and maintain the gap, or he just says, yes, I do have 12 seconds. I can afford to just ease the car through this stint and possibly push in the final the final shorter stints. So we'll see what Walker's response to that will be, but the gap still maintaining at around 12 seconds for the time being.
Well, again, it's high risk, high reward here for Obisano, isn't it? He'll gain a lot of points if he does overtake for the lead of the race, but for Wayne Walker, he doesn't need to win. Of course, everyone wants to win, Mount Panorama, everyone wants to win. But at the same time, in the big picture, he doesn't need to. All he needs to really do is finish the race and take a nice chunk of points with him. And I think despite Obisano, he's going to put in all of this effort to overtake and potentially take the lead of the race. It still won't change anything at the top of the board. So it's everything lays on Obisano's lap at the moment, it seems. He's got to take that risk, and if he can pull it off, he'll get a nice reward. But for Walker, it's just about taking it home and getting those points on the board to make sure that he can continue to take that advantage forward into the final 2 rounds.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll see how that develops. Tyler Williams there just ahead of Obisano. I think Tyler Williams did have some minor contact with the wall just before the forest elbow, so might have a bit of damage to the car now, but is able to get out of the way of Obisano nice and easily and without too much time lost from either car. So yeah, gaps once again starting to spread out. Fraser and Gooden looks like a closing in. That's on a round. So there we go. That's what happens if you, he's pushing constantly, but the car, he's just not able to keep that white there, and that has put him on the radar once again of Craig Broadbent, which is just coming across the start-finish line now. So not ideal from Apartisano there. He's just pushing that a little bit too hard.
I mean, I've got to take my hat off to this guy. He's, there's no fear inside that cockpit. I know it's sim racing, but he's not worried about the consequences, it seems. He's always got to push 110%. It's always got to be everything or nothing for Apartisano. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But, to not have that worry about the risk involved or to try to find more pace in difficult situations like this, that you got to admire that kind of courage and that determination to find that extra tenth or two. Sometimes it does turn around and bite you, unfortunately, as we've just seen. But he's doing everything he can. He's putting all the cards on the table to win here this evening. Yeah,
absolutely. He's doing a fantastic job. Just making it exciting to watch as well. Not entirely when he spins, but when the car's sideways and he is still full throttle opposite lock. It's fantastic to see. But it's some debris I just saw at the top of the hill there, possibly, but didn't seem to be of any concern. But this battle we've got here, Fraser and Gooden. Number 88 working his way back up the field, it seems. He is I think he's just got around Fraser and is still being chased by the number 6 car. Number 6 car. So let's see what can come of this battle. There's a yellow flag in sector 3.
Oh, slightly sideways there for Brett Gooden.
Yeah, he's that's pretty much standard for this car, for the number 88 from what we've seen through there. But that's very sideways for both cars. That was very nearly quite a large accident between the two. But coming over the top of the mountain here, once again all over the curbs there is number 6. He's really ragging that car, trying to stay with the 88. And once again, he's Jacob Fraser doing a fantastic job of keeping that thing on the back of number 88 there, but very, very scary looking sideways moments over the top of the mountain. Once again, coming down through Skyline and through the S's. Nothing in terms of
it's a sideways big moment there for Jacob Fraser coming in into Forest Elbow completely sideways. He's counter steering into the slide and just manages to hold on to it, but that means that he's lost the slipstream coming onto Conrad Straight. That's not going to be an opportunity anymore, but he is the faster car at this stage of the race, has to be said. He was very close to Brett Gooden and has extra pace as he goes onto the grass, Dave, twice. On the entry to chase, it's going to be a big moment here. He's slowing down, just misses. Brett Gooden just wipes across. That must have been a code brown inside the cockpit of the 88 there, as he just slided straight across the front of the apex, but nicely avoided there from Brett Gooden. I'm not too sure if he knew or not, but that would have been a big Mustang approaching fast in that rear view mirror.
Yeah, that is an absolutely terrifying moment, is seeing something like that. Fantastic avoidance from both cars for nothing to come of that, but you just get a little wheel on the grass into that braking zone, and that is you not stopping. So Fraser pushing really hard and lucky to get away with that with just a big dent in his pride rather than the side of the 88.
So I'm just trying to find what the closest battle is we've had. We've got the top 9 cars all on the same lead lap at the moment, but Daniel Pisano now shy of 23 seconds from Wayne Walker. Last lap's a 2:19 and a 2:18 from race leader Wayne Walker, so he's starting to up the ante now. Probably finds a bit of confidence in the tyres now that they've warmed up, and also seeing that Apartisano is now probably out of the game for the lead now. Craig Broadbent is sitting in third. He's shy of 6 seconds. And then you've got Stephen White a further 7 seconds behind. So there's fairly substantial gaps between these guys. Oh, there's a big accident here in Sector 1, just after that's in Griffin's Mount, it seems, and Ryde Park. Some of the cars are completely stationary, it seems, and I'm not too sure who it was. It was Bradley Martin involved, and looks like the 88, and I think that's Brett Gooden. Yeah, it was Brett Gooden. So Massive collision there. That's lap traffic as well, has to be said. The 76 is a lap down, not fighting for position at all. So that is an unfortunate way to lose that position to Jacob Frazier.
Yeah, I think that might. I don't. Obviously, no idea what happened, but from what it seems, I think the Team Navy car maybe just made a mistake, and then Brett Gunn came across it, didn't know, had nowhere to go, just had to lock the wheels and ended up being sideways.
Yeah.
Jacob Frazier managed to squeeze his way through, but did take a hit to the barrier on his way through, which was fairly substantial to the left-hand side at the front. So we'll see if that affects the car, but it seems to be okay. Everyone's all back up and running. So yeah, scary incident, especially when you come around a blind corner to see that there's an entire Holden perpendicular across the track. But yeah, good avoidance from everybody not to cause a huge crash there.
Yeah, Billy Ebenhauser is still going strong. He finds himself P5 at the moment. He's up by several positions from his qualifying results, so he's having a great race. He was basically at the bottom end of the top 10 at the end of qualifying, so he's having a fantastic evening. Chris McLennan also up by, I believe, 2 to 3 positions from qualifying, so those guys having a fairly pleasant evening, scoring those vital points at this stage of the championship. I believe these guys are fighting in the standings as well. Chris McLennan currently on 1,388 points. Billy Ebenhauser on 1,280. So this is going to be a really good day for Ebenhauser, who's going to close the gap to McLennan coming into the final 2 rounds. He just needs to make sure that he brings this home nice and tidy. The next person ahead is Stephen White, but that's a fairly substantial gap, of 9 seconds, my apologies. So he's got a lot of work to do, but it would be beneficial to close and overtake Stephen, but that's not going to be an easy task at all.
Looking at Stephen White, the gap from him to Broadbent isn't a million miles. It's 5.5 seconds, which I think has been closing. So Stephen White does have his eyes set on a podium here if he can catch up to Broadbent and stay out of trouble this time. But yeah, we'll see what happens, what develops from this particular battle. Well, the gap's coming down substantially there. Has Broadbent gone off?
I think he's having a few problems there in the orange Mustang. That pace has really dropped off. The last lap was a 2:22.9, so that's really not on pace from what we're used to seeing from Craig Broadbent at all. Stephen White now within 3 seconds, it seems. So back up to racing speed now for Craig. So whatever it was, it seems to have rectified itself. So maybe a small error at some point of that previous lap.
Yeah, I think he possibly made a bit of a meal of the final corner, because that's when I noticed the relative was just diving down. But yeah, he's back up and running, and he seems to be sort of maintaining that gap. But yeah, Stephen White really has picked up the pace and has started to close in a lot quicker than we thought.
Yeah, through the cutting now, up to speed once again for the Holden. Stephen White doing very well. He's actually in the same position that he had since qualifying started, so he's not lost anything despite the damage that he sustained earlier on in the race. And we still have 1 service left, and we're expecting Stephen to come in slightly earlier than the rest of the guys, with 24 minutes still remaining in this race. So I think he would, if he was to pit now, it will be pushing the petrol, the fuel tank to the limits, but he would still be able to make it to the checkered flag quite comfortably. So whatever they decide to do now will be vital to get to the end of the race.
Yeah, this is where all the strategies start to converge towards the end of the race. Walker is, he's checked out from the rest of the field. He's got 24 seconds on Optisano, who again is kind of having a lonely race on his own if he's not spinning. Walker is just in his own league at the moment. He's he's saying nearly just needs to bring the car home. Apparently he's bringing the car home in the lead if he can. He's done well to recover from the poor start he had at the beginning of the race. But not take away from Optisano, who has been quite the challenge throughout the entire thing, as Craig Broadbent is coming through Stoddard there to lap him. Yellow flag in sector 3 briefly there. I'm not entirely sure what that was regarding, but we're back under green now. Tyler Williams gone to 9th, as I think Young is in the pit lane.
This might be... Sorry, Dave, go on.
I was going to say, Young is in the pits for his final. His final stop. Oh, that's a big incident there. Did you?
Yeah, Stoddard in the background there having an impact with Mark Young coming out of pit lane. It was a bit messy, to be honest. There was a lot of spray coming off the back of the cars. It was hard to see what exactly was happening, but it looked to be maybe they were trying to give way. They were too wide with Craig Broadbent, and then Mark Young came into the picture and made things even worse, and that's when the contact happened. But that's not the best way that Mark Young wanted to start his final stop. Yeah, he's got massive damage coming into that corner. He's understeering completely to the left. Quarry Bend not agreeing at all with the car, and you've got a missing front bumper on Craig Stoddard's car as well, so really not a good day.
Yeah, Young came out of the pits, he put the power down, and the car just turned sideways, went straight across the racing surface and T-boned Stoddard into the wall. So yeah, that was definitely not intentional. It's not something that Young really could have done anything about. It just the car just snapped away from him, and that's Stoddard there getting out of the way of Mark Young as he comes through. Looks like Young's able to continue on for now, but yeah, Craig Stoddard's car is not in a good way.
Well, that traffic and that small incident allowed Stephen White to close up to Craig Broadbent, and I'm not too sure if he had to slow down during that incident or not, but whatever it's done, the gap has come down to 1.5 seconds. In fact, less than that now, 0.9 seconds coming through Forest Elbow onto Conrod Straight. That slipstream will close the gap down even further. We've got some traffic ahead, which is the 83. I think that's Alex Daly as he comes down the straight. That will give Broadbent some extra speed coming into the chase, and of course we will wait and see, and I think Craig will have a slight advantage in the final pit stop because he can go further into the last remaining minutes that we've got here for this evening's race. So technically that means that he will be stationary for a smaller length of time. Stephen White now comes into the pits as predicted, so 21 minutes remaining, so that he will be able to get to the end without any troubles. But I believe Craig will have a slight advantage coming out, so he's going to have to push like crazy after he comes back onto the racing track.
Yeah, so unfortunately Stephen White there, he was in within a good shot of getting past Craig Broadbent there, but he got a terrible kind of sideways moment coming out of Forest Elbow, which ruined his momentum the entire way down the straight. So it's inconsequential at this point because he was coming into the pits anyway, or maybe because of that he did come into the pits early, but that'll be Stephen White looking to really push now towards the end of the race because this will be a final stop. But Broadbent is going to have the advantage come his pit stop, lighter on fuel and fresher tyres.
Well, you've also got Billy Ebenhauser. He's just passed in pit lane. Chris McLennan, although it's going to be quite a long, he's going to have a really short stop in order to make up that ground, but Billy Ebenhauser may be a threat to Stephen White after he services his car, depending on when they come in. I predict maybe either this lap or potentially the next 2 laps after. So we're looking at maybe a 1 to 3 lap window when cars are starting to come in for the final time. Of course, the first man to bite will probably be Wayne Walker, but we'll have to wait and see. And of course, the big question will be when Craig comes in and whether Stephen White will be able to close that gap down, having come out of the pits earlier.
Fortunately, we've had the number 81 car, looks like they're DNF as well, John Slow. Not entirely sure the reasons for that, but that leaves us with 15 cars still running, which is still a fairly decent number. 3/4 of the cars still running after nearly 2 hours. It's fantastic work from everybody, but that's unfortunate for John Slow to not able just to get to the end of the race. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see who can make the most of the final pit stops now. 7 positions gained, not counting the ones that he's just gained from Stephen White as Ebenhauser. So he's had a fantastic kind of drive through the field. Might be able to gain that other one if he can get the jump on Stephen White. We'll have to wait and see when he comes to do his final stop.
Yeah, it's definitely crunch time now, isn't it? Paul Robinson inside the pits. We've got a few other people starting to commit as well. I'll just refresh the overlay just in case it is a few seconds or so out, but no, it is up to date just in case, because of course this is all important now. This is when crunch time is. Craig Broadbent inside pit lane, so he's going to be stationary for just a margin bit, just less than what Stephen White had to be. It's going to be a few litres of fuel less going into that particular car as he comes to a halt in pit lane. Where is Stephen White, though? He is coming down Conrad as we speak. So he looks like he will be taking this position if Craig Broadbent can't get back up to speed in time. He's currently coming through chase at the moment. Powering down. Where is Craig? Is he still stationary? He is. Wipers going furiously. The only advantage he's got is that he is at the further end at pit lane to service the car. There's no new tyres going on this particular car. You see Stephen White in the background there as Craig Broadbent gets back rolling. This is for 4th position, remember, once all is said and done and everyone has their pit stops. But it's going to be side by side coming through the first corner. It's going to be released there for Craig Broadbent. But Stephen White's got the position, Dave. He's got it done, undercutting by 1 lap, and Craig Broadbent reappears just 0.3 seconds behind Stephen White.
That was absolutely crucial there for White to get that done. He's done a fantastic job. He's got the warm tyres. He's got the advantage now. He has to build that gap before Craig Broadbent can get any heat into those tyres. So we'll wait and see. We know Stephen White's had some pace over Broadbent, but yeah, that is a podium position possibly for Stephen White if he can continue and hold Broadbent off. But it's going to be difficult come to the chase because Broadbent is right behind him.
Yeah, he needs to make sure that he maintains that gap, because coming down Conrad, that will be the best chance to overtake, of course. Just make sure that he doesn't lose any ground at the top of the mountain and on his way back down once more, as they are really close together now. So 0.2 seconds between them as they fight for this podium position in the final closing stages of this 2-hour race. What a way to end, Dave. That is, 2 hours worth of racing, or an hour and 45 worth of racing, and we're still 0.2 seconds away from each other for this podium position.
Interesting. Oppisano going a lap longer. Wayne Walker has pitted. Oppisano is carrying on, so that is a possible overcut opportunity for Oppisano there. So I'll have to keep an eye on that. But yeah, back to this battle with Broadbent and White. Broadbent dropped back a little bit after the downhill section of the mountain. He's 8 tenths behind coming onto Conrad. Is he going to be able to get any time? He's not really gaining under the slipstream. Looks like Stephen White's able to put the power down a little bit better, and this is going to be Broadbent's best opportunity really before Stephen White starts to run away, but not able to make that stick for the time being.
It just shows the importance of that final corner, isn't it? Others from the top of the mountain, Forest Elbow, you have to perfect that in order to get a decent run down to the bottom of the mountain once again. And that just didn't happen for Craig Broadbent. Really struggled and therefore backed up to 0.5 seconds between these two cars. Oh, it looks like a massive issue there for Jacob Fraser. He went deep into the chase, off onto the grass and the gravel, and rejoins behind Billy Ebenhauser. So it looked like a potential overtake between the two of them, but it all unravelled at the point of no return. And Craig Broadbent now starting to close back up as they drive back up to the mountain once again. 0.3 seconds now between these two guys as they fight for that podium position.
You can definitely see where
he's side by side. We've got an overlap there. Sorry, Dave, to interrupt. He's got an overlap around the outside as he comes into the cutting, but obviously Stephen White holding that vital inside line to refuse any openings there for Craig Broadbent. Although he's going the long way round, that is incredible move if he can make this work through Ryde Park and up to the top of the hill. Of course, Stephen again once more holding that vital line to refuse Craig Broadbent any opportunity to overtake. So very feisty at the top of the mountain here.
Yeah, that was very optimistic there from Craig Broadbent, but he very nearly pulled it off. That was fantastic opportunity, and not quite able to capitalise good defensive work from Stephen White. But yeah, this is becoming quite the battle towards the closing stage of the race. I reckon it's going to go on till the very end here, as Oppisano now into the pit lane.
Yeah, that gap between our two leaders is around 12 seconds when Oppisano decided to commit, so potentially we'll see that come down ever so slightly. But of course we have to remember that Oppisano had that earlier spin, so the gap was at around 20 seconds the last time before Wayne Walker decided to come into the pits. I have a suspicion that that gap will be pretty much the same when we re-emerge onto racing conditions. But Craig Broadbent not able to once again close that gap down. He is closer than the previous occasion or the previous lap, so down to 0.3 seconds coming out of the chase. So it is getting closer and closer as we speak, and I predict if he doesn't make any mistakes coming through Murray and the first corner, that he may be able to attack on the way up the mountain.
Yeah, he's right on the back end of Steve White. Has a yellow flag ahead, so he won't be able to take here. Making contact there as they go through. Side by side, Craig Broadbent's going to make the move on the inside. He's just about going to hold on the brakes there, side by side through the apex. Stephen White gets left out to dry on the outside, and he is left to 4th position. So that's 3rd place once again for Craig Broadbent as everyone sets their pits. Betty Ebenheiser sets a best lap there, but yeah, this battle is not over yet. Stephen White is going to be deep in the slipstream. Is he going to try and make a move down the inside here? Not quite. So for the time being, Craig Broadbent holds on to that 3rd place. Yes, sideways there, coming out of the corner, and that's going to leave Stephen White with an opportunity to make a move into the cutting. Not able to so far. He's going to have to hold back through the mountain now.
Yeah, really tooth and nail stuff between these guys. They're putting all cards on the table in the fight for this podium position. Again, championship standings wise, these guys are fighting for 2nd place overall in the standings. There's only about 150 points between them, which is nothing in the V8 championship. You know, there's 300 points available for the winner of today's race, never mind spread across the entire field. So this is really vital position going into the final 2 rounds, and it shows given their behaviour when fighting for this track position right now.
Yeah, it's absolutely tooth and nail, as you were saying, and there's nothing left on the table. Steve White's lost a little bit of time through the mountain section here. Craig Broadbent's managed to just gain a little bit of time. Maybe this fresher tyres just helping him ever so slightly. Big slide there for Steve White. It's going to kill all of his momentum coming down the straight. That is the worst possible place on the lap you can have any form of wheel spin, as it just kills every single bit of momentum you have, and he's lost another few tenths coming down Conrad. See if he can gain some more time into the braking zone now. Yeah,
you can just see on the delta between the two of them, it's slowly going up as they came onto Conrad Straight, and that was because of that earlier spin, as you mentioned. But under braking into the chase, he's managed to just take off a slight bit before slowing down once again. So Craig Broadbent is really starting to find a groove now. He's starting to pull away from Stephen White, and looks to be saying, I'm going to keep hold of this podium position, whether you try it or not. He's putting down some really good lap times. Last lap was a 2:17.6, and Stephen White was a 2:19. That can't be correct. There must be an error with the overlay there. But if so, then Craig Broadbent is on a really good pace at the moment in the closing stages.
Yeah, no, we do see in the closing stage of the stint, Stephen White is able to get more pace. So we'll see if that is true in his final stint, or if Craig Broadbent's found his groove, found that little bit of reserved pace that he had to hold on to that podium. Because at the moment, I think that's the best he could possibly manage. Walker and Opitano are just too far ahead in the final stages. Just 10 minutes to go in this race now, as Broadbent big slide coming out of the corner there, and that is going to leave him slightly vulnerable to White. But White just seems to be backing off ever so slightly and just maybe saving some tyres and some temperature in the car just for a final attack in the final few laps.
Well, the wet compound tyres, of course, they've got a lot more grip on them compared to your slicks or your hard compounds that are the alternatives. But, you know, even though we are running in these wet conditions, I do wonder if, because of the nature of the circuit, if they're starting to overheat and cause a bit of friction and cause a few problems. We still know that under slipstream conditions, they're still going to cause overheating on those fronts. You know, based on what we experience from the slick compound tyres, if you stay in the draft for too long, your tyres will overheat, especially at the top of the mountain. And that seems to be where Stephen White is losing a lot of time already, up to 1.5 seconds. And, you know, of course, coming through Conrad, that's that vital corner before coming onto that straight, and that's where Craig is able to just pull away that extra tenth each time to increase that advantage. So I do wonder if those tyres are suffering from overheating issues.
Especially since there seems to be a little bit less standing water on the track now. So the rain doesn't seem to be getting any worse, but with all the cars just clearing the water off the track, it does seem to be that there is a little bit less standing water, so there won't be as much water for the cars to, for the tyres to displace, which will heat them up. But as we look here, Robinson, the 83, is chasing down Tyler Williams in the number 26. This is for the final top 10 position, and this is getting fairly close. These two have been battling for pretty much the entire race. In a fantastic fight for these two drivers to see who can maximise the points here. A little bit far away is Robertson at the time being, but he's going to have some slipstream on Tyler Williams going up the straight here towards Quarry, and see if he can make a move, but he is losing a bit of time from his exit. The flag in sector 1 keeps popping up. I'm not entirely sure
I think that might be an issue. Yeah, I think I don't think that's relevant. It's a bit like the final corner as well. I think that's where it's flagging out into just over the start finish line. But it's been out for the last few laps now. But yet there's no cars on the start finish straight, so it's a bit bizarre. I think it's one of those R Factor 2 things.
Yeah, we'll just put it down to R Factor 2 doing its own things. Stephen White's drop back considerably from Broadbent here. Look at the delta. It's now over 2 seconds. So, he used his initial pace. I think is just dropping back to save the tyres, save the pace for possibly a couple of last lap dashes. Gap for Tyler Williams and Paul Robinson is extending as well. So Tyler Williams seems to have this under control for the time being.
Well, it was the other way around. Robinson was actually 2.5 seconds faster on the previous lap, so don't know what's happening there, but maybe we'll see Robinson once he finds a bit of confidence in those tyres to close the gap. But he's running out of time. There's only 6 minutes left before the checkered flag is flown here at Mount Panorama, so points are available, especially for that 10th position, so he wants to get the job done quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. A track like this, 6 minutes is only 3 laps. So he's not got a lot of opportunities there, so he really needs to start pushing. Same with Stephen White. If he wants to close in at all on Broadbent now, he needs to start pushing now, because he is going to run out of time otherwise. Going back to leaders, Walker is 20 seconds clear of Oppadisano, who himself is quite the distance away from Broadbent. So Wayne Walker has just been cruising, it seems, and is just managing the gap between him and Oppadisano. Oppadisano not really had an answer in this final stint to Wayne Walker, even though he did attempt to go for the overcut by going another lap longer than Walker. But another stunning performance from our championship leader. And he's just got 5.5 minutes now just to get this kart to the end.
Yeah, once again, as soon as he took the lead of the race, he was able to just focus on what matters, and that is just focusing on corner by corner, and that's the way that Wayne Walker works, I believe. He just focuses on the lap time and the delta to the next car behind. The gap is currently sitting at 20 seconds, so Oppadisano has been pushing in the last closing stages, but it's far too late to be thinking about doing something like that, and Wayne Walker's just being able to manage the pace, look after the tyres, and that's what is the difference, isn't it? It's those fine margins. These guys aren't slow. The guys giving chase are really good racing drivers, but Walker just is able to somehow fine-tune that pace and just be able to extend that advantage ever so slightly, and he's been doing that all season, and it makes a big difference, of course, as the championship points show.
Yeah, absolutely. He seems to be in a class of his own when it comes to wet weather driving as well. I've not seen anyone else just with such a smooth style as Wayne Walker. He's one of the drivers that I've seen kind of four-wheel drifting the least. He's able to manage the power in that car in his condition really well. So he's really showing his skills and talent in this car this evening.
Sorry, come.
So I was going to say, if he does get the win, it'll be thoroughly deserved.
I mean, but the thing is, when we're talking about Walker, his fastest lap is 2:16.3. That's an entire 1.2 seconds slower than what Billy Ebenhauser set as a 2:15.1 as the fastest lap of this race. It's just the consistency. It's not the outright pace. It's just pure, simple, no mistakes, no big sends, Just make sure you hit your markers consistently, and that's what's allowed him to get this massive gain in pace. Oppitisano, his fastest lap was a 2:15.7, but it's the consistency. There's been mistakes, there's been errors for Oppitisano, unfortunately, and that's where the differences come into play, and that what is the difference between winning a race like this and losing.
Yeah, absolutely. Really showing his skills this evening is Wayne Walker. He's he's showing why he is a double champion in this car, and well on his way to become a triple champion at the end of the season if he can carry on with this form. Yeah, there's a lot of gaps developing in the field as the race comes to a close here. So not as quite as much of the strategy closure as we thought there would be. But yeah, Oppitisano doing a good job just to keep within those 20 seconds. So if there is any major issues in the final couple of laps here, then he is able to optimize on that. But at the moment, it's Wayne Walker's race to lose. He'll have 2 laps left, I think, just at the end of this. Maybe one more lap after this, but we'll see. He might just be able to get 2 laps in here. But yeah, it's been a stunning show from everybody here. Everyone's put on such a fantastic show. There's not been any silly mistakes that I've seen, any questionable moves. It's all been fantastic racing once again from these guys. I do believe Wayne Walker, this might possibly be the final lap. It's going to be very close. If I was him, I'd slow down just a little bit, just to be.
You want to finish it early, yeah.
Yeah, just to get an early bath.
Well, last lap time was a 2:18, so we may be on the final lap here for Mount Panorama. The morning of races has been, though, it's been. I think they're going to be relaxing and sleeping well tonight, that's for sure. They'll be having aching muscles, and I hope everyone's braking leg is fine, because that's what I always have as a sim racer. If I use my brake pedal too much, especially at a place like this, in conditions like this, I'll get like cramp in my leg or something, because I'm an old bastard, and that's the way it goes sometimes. But
what were we saying about the earlier?
I thought I'd even the tally, one each. I'll put my 50 pence in the swear jar, but it's this is definitely going to be one for the books, isn't it? A full 2 hours of wet running at Mount Panorama for these guys in V8 supercars of all things. There's hardly any aerodynamics, big heavy V8 supercars with rear wheel drive. So to be able to tame and win this race is definitely something else.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, brilliant show from everybody. There's been battles up and down the field, and it's been fantastic watching it. I was expecting to see a massive like lap 1 pile up, but no such things. I do the drivers a disservice by thinking that, but
very professional bunch of guys down here at Downunder, so all very well kept, and we've still got 16 running cars out of 20, so that's a very small margin of error from all involved. They've all done well to bring it to the checkered flag, and Wayne Walker now navigating the final few corners here for the second endurance round of the season. And Mount Panorama, it seemed like for the start of the race, Craig Broadbent and Oppitisano were going to be able to challenge Wayne Walker here, but in the final few stages, able to take the lead and win here at Mount Panorama. 2 hours of racing in the rain. He's done it all and claims a victory.
Was that it? Was that the final? Oh yeah, the checker flag's out now, so I'm not sure if he just managed to get over the line there.
Oh, he must have. He must have. Yeah. The checker flag isn't out, so he just wants to keep it going one more time, just as the timer reached the final few seconds. I mean, he just wants to keep the show going, doesn't he? Wayne Walker must be loving it inside that cockpit there. Because we haven't had much rain racing here in the series, so apologies for the premature completion of the race from my side, but unless he bins it into the S's, it won't change a thing of what I said.
Now let's not talk too much about that. We have had a commentator's curse or two every now and again from us here, so yeah, just Wayne Walker taking it easy now on the final lap, but yeah, as you were saying, it's been flawless showing from him the entire afternoon.
This will make his tally 10 out of 10 races in a row that he's won. In the second half of this championship, he's just been unstoppable, it seems. Nobody seems to be able to provide an answer to Wayne Walker in these races, although, having said that, they've put in their best effort, that's for sure. But he always seems to have an answer back. He always just has to find that extra bit of 5%, 2% of pace, and that's what makes the difference for him. So very well done there for Wayne Walker. And of course we do have, in classic style, a last-minute ditch attempt overtake here from Brett Gooden and Liam Williams, or Tullard Williams, fighting over 9th place in the final lap of this race, Dave.
Yeah, we just coming up the mountain now. Looks like Tullard Williams has just dropped back a little bit, but yeah, Brett Gooden able to just get back up into that into 9th position. It was battle for the top 10, but yeah, it looks like possibly Robinson has fallen back. Yeah, Gooden once again showing he had a stonkingly impressive looking qualifying lap. He's done very well. He's trying to hold back that charging Holden now from Tullard Williams behind, right under the rear wing, as Walker comes across the line now to win the race. We'll keep an eye on this battle. Looks like White was quite close as well to Broadbent in the final stages, so we'll keep an eye on that as well. But coming down the S's now, you can get a very good view of the...
yeah, sorry, I'm going to have to switch back to this because this is slipstream down the back straight for 3rd place between Stephen White and Craig Broadbent. 0.5 seconds between them. This could, if Broadbent doesn't master these final few corners, he could be a potential overtake for the podium position. Stephen White closing under braking, very impressive indeed. 0.3 seconds coming through the apex of the corner. It all comes down to Murray's, which is the final bend here at Mount Panorama. Before getting to the checkered flag, it's do or die for Craig Broadbent if he's going to hold on to the position. Stephen White looks down the inside. He's making the move, but he tucks back inside. He's going to go for the inside move here. They're side by side. There's a slight overlap, but Craig Broadbent just manages to hold on there for the podium position, 3rd place. What a way to end that was. But we'll switch back now to this fight for 9th place, Brett Gooden and Liam Tullard Williams, as they too navigate their way through the final corner. Looks like Liam Tullard Williams is going to go for the cutback. He's side by side. They're both... Oh, it's a massive mistake there for Williams as he gets the power down and it goes all wrong. Wheel spinning and sideways as he comes across the start-finishing line. But really good, impressive last-minute move there by Williams. Just wasn't able to bring it together in those final few moments.
What a dramatic end to that. Then we really weren't expecting that close of a battle. But yeah, Walker taking the win with Oppadisano in 2nd place. Broadbent just holding off Stephen White for 3rd position. Stephen White coming 4th. Ebenheiser, fantastic result for him, getting 7 positions, I think that was in the end, and coming home in 5th. McLennan in 6th, and then 7th for Fraser. A fantastic result for him. And then, the rest of the field, which we'll run through shortly. But, what an insanely good race that was.
Yeah, that was absolutely brilliant. Loved every moment of it from start to finish. We've had battles throughout, pretty much from start to finish. But we'll run through the official results with you now before we go over to the interviews with our race winners, who are probably absolutely exhausted by now. But the session's coming up now with Wayne Walker once again winning that session in style. Daniel Oppadisano, he had the answer at the start, but that small mistake in the second half of the race meant that he settles for 2nd place. Still a very good result. And then Craig Broadbent just managing to beat Stephen White to the checkered flag in those closing stages. Very great racing between those two. And of course Stephen White in P4. Billy Ebenhauser, a great race for him. He makes his way up into P5 for Jarvisin Esports. And then we have Chris McLennan from Noble Host Racing in 6th. Jacob Fraser, another great race for that gentleman. He's fairly new to the series, but finds himself a solid P7. And then Mark Young finds his way in P8. Brett Gooden and Liam Tullard Williams fighting over the line for 9th and 10th. Very close margin between those two. Love to see it. And then Paul Robinson just outside the top 10 in 11th. Brad Mays comes home in 12th. And then Craig Stollard is able to beat Alex Kidas to the line, as both their races are full of trouble. And then the last of the runners is Bradley Martin in P15. Alex Daly through to John Wade, all sadly retiring from the race. But yeah, that was definitely one of the better races I've seen. 2 hours worth of racing at Bathurst with full rain. And I think we've got some of the interviewees with us now who can be interviewed. Or if not, we'll go over to them shortly. Yes, we do. So Dave, if you want to take it away.
Yeah, so first off, 3rd place, we had Craig Broadbent. Craig, that got very close at the end there. That was a well-fought race all throughout there. That seemed like quite difficult fun for you.
My wrists are hurting because of all the correcting of the oversteer. Yeah, at the end there with White Dog, Wayne actually got another lap in, which put me short on fuel by a couple of litres, so I had to save on the last lap. Let him catch right up, and it chugged over the line and ran out as we crossed the finish line.
Very close indeed then. Yeah, that must have been something for you. But how was it handling the car in wet conditions and fighting through the mountain in what are treacherous weather conditions?
Well, there's only like 2 laps after your pit stop when you got fresh tyres where you felt like the car would handle, and then after that it just started skipping out. There was no rear traction whatsoever. It was just managing it, trying to keep it straight basically.
So it seemed like a very physical race there. Is this one of the more physical races of the series? One that leaves you a little bit more tired than all the others?
Yeah, definitely. That takes it out of you, this Bathurst track. It takes it out of you in the dry for 2 hours, and in the wet, it's a whole different beast.
Oh, brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Craig. Congratulations on another podium for you there. I think the second half of the season seems to be coming quite good for you. So hopefully you can carry that momentum through the final rounds. Next up, we have a second place, Daniel Opedisano. Daniel, that was a pretty solid race once again from you there. Just didn't quite have the pace to match Wayne, but a good solid race altogether for you there.
Yeah, I thought I had the pace in the first thing. I should have just put my big boy pants on and found a way around Craig, but I couldn't. So yeah, a couple of rotations as well. That was hard work.
Yeah, so you look like for the entire race you were pushing 100%. Is that just how you handle these cars, just 100% pushing all the time, or is there times where you do kind of just take the step back and just hold the pace back a little bit?
Yeah, I was playing catch up all the time, so I was pushing pretty hard, but that came at a cost because towards the end of the stint I had no grip whatsoever. So yeah, I couldn't find a groove at all tonight. There was no rhythm.
Well, yeah, it was unfortunate that you couldn't quite match the pace, but still a pretty strong finish, good chunk of points for you in the championship.
Yeah, see how we go for the rest of the year. Thank you.
So can I just ask before going in? Of course, Craig and Opedisano, you've had great battles on track. Was you worried about that in your fight for Walker? Because of course you overtook him in the start of the race, and you were both in a fairly commanding position, and you started to battle one another again. Walk us through that process. I mean, did you want to overtake to then potentially charge away and get away from Walker, or was you constantly cautious of opening yourself up to Walker attacking as you two did battle for the lead? Starting with Opedisano,
sorry. Yeah, I just wanted to be out in front because I was pretty confident I had that pace early in my stint to maybe pull a bit of a gap, but Wayne was always going to be there. So yeah, Craig, me and Craig raced pretty well too. So yeah, we keep it close, and it's always fair.
And Craig, how about for you? Of course, you took the lead at the start of the race. You had control for quite some time before you came under pressure from Opedisano and Walker. Walk us through what's going through your mind at that stage. Was you trying to push the car, burning through your tyres, or was you just trying to manage it as best you can?
I was just trying to get a feel for the track, actually. I was surprised that I got the jump on Wayne, and I just wanted to see if I could pull a little bit of a gap, and I kind of did early, and then it come back at the end of the stint. In the second stint, I don't know whether I was tired, but my pace dropped off a little bit, and Wayne got around me.
Yeah, and how was, for this question to all of you, how was the spray? Because of course we were saying in qualifying how you've got a nice clear view ahead of you, you don't have to worry about anything, but once you're in racing conditions, you've then got to have that extra factor of the spray coming off the competitor ahead. Did that impede your ability to find pace and find the right place for the car?
Definitely gets in the way. Like when there's a few cars in front of you, the vision gets reduced severely, you start to miss your cues, like your turn-in points. And things like that get harder to see.
And Opedisano, how was it for you? Obviously chasing down the leaders in the first stage of the race.
Yeah, I was having fun. The spray Spray was okay. Yeah, like what Craig said, there's a few cars up ahead. It's like long distance. I find it quite tricky to get used to. But when I was right up close behind either Craig or Wayne, it was okay. So yeah, no complaints there.
Perfect. Well, we'll move on to our race winner then, Wayne Walker. That's now 10 victories in a row. Sorry, my English is failing me. You must be happy with that result, considering how it all started as well. You took a bit of time to get up to pace. Walk us through your race from your perspective and how it went for you.
Yeah, I didn't get the best of start. I bogged it off the line, and Craig was able to get a run into the first corner. And then I was trying to just stay with him, but not try and push too hard to, burn the tyres up, and had Oppo, all over the back of me, and he ended up getting past and sort of pulling away, catching up to Broadbent.
Yeah.
It was the start of the race was, I don't know, it was hard. I couldn't sort of get into a rhythm at all. But yeah, sort of towards the end of the first stint, started catching back up, and I think I passed Oppo before the first pit stop, and then I think it was in the second stint that I was able to pass Craig.
Yeah. So it looked like you was getting faster as the race progressed, and we were saying about the fastest lap times as well, is that you didn't have the fastest lap, but you were very consistent, especially as the race progressed, and you was able to take the lead in that final second half, should I say. But did you find that once you took the lead, you was able to settle and relax a bit more, or walk us through what your mindset was?
Yeah, it was hard being behind. With the spray, there was times there where I was struggling to see like any of the track. So I was just sort of following the car in front. But yeah, once I got into the lead, I was able to take my lines properly and sort of pulled a gap on Broadbent. But yeah, it was sort of, I could see Oppo catching, like when I was behind Broadbent, I could see Oppo catching, and I knew I had to make a move pretty soon because he was catching pretty quick. And then yeah, once I got into the lead, it was just trying to chip away and slowly build a gap.
Yeah.
But yeah, every time we pitted, for the first sort of half the stint, Oppo was sort of slowly catching, and then the second half I'd start pulling back out. But yeah, it's got to be the hardest race we've done, I reckon.
Yeah, I mean, we were saying throughout the stream, me and Dave, Mount Panorama is difficult enough when you're on dry conditions, but when you throw in a lot of rain, it's a whole different beast. So, hats off to you guys and all involved for actually making it to the checkered flag, never mind in the positions that you are as well. But Dave, is there anything else you want to ask the guys before we sign off for tonight and wish them farewell?
No, just enjoy the rest of the evening, have a well-deserved beer, and get plenty of rest. And, bring your A game for the next one at the end of October. We hope to see you there.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Congratulations again. But what a race there, Dave, for what is one of the last final few rounds of the 2022 season. This has been an absolutely outstanding performance from all involved, and congratulations again to the podium finishers. Wayne winning 10 out of 10 victories. But for us here at CFS, we're about to sign off for tonight. If you do enjoy the series, or if you want to get in touch with the guys, all the links are in the description below, and you can check them out and get in contact with them for the next season, or potentially join them for the next races. You'd have to get into contact with them and speak to them. But anything you want to say, Dave, before we sign off?
No, just another fantastic evening of racing here with the guys at Downunder series. Thanks again to the sponsors, Service Australia and Noble Host. They've given us an absolutely flawless experience once again. Just looking forward to the next round, which will be the 29th of October at Gold Coast.
Yeah, can't wait for it. But from us here at CFS, don't forget to like and subscribe and follow the guys in their series. But from us here, we're signing off, so take care and good night.